Welcome everyone to the Sheridan Bachelor in Film and Television Open House. I'm your host, St. Al Kaley, a 4th BFT Sheridan student, and I'm here to welcome the next generation of filmmakers. Now, before we get to anything BFTV related, I would like to welcome Tracy German to do the land acknowledgement.
Han, Woyokio Win. My name is Woyokio Win, a woman who helps the people. My English name is Tracy German. I'm a professor at Sheridan College within the BFT department. I would like to acknowledge the land on which we gather has been and still is the territory of several Indigenous nations, including Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Métis of the Mississauga of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation, and since time immemorial, numerous Indigenous nations and Indigenous peoples have lived and passed through this territory. We recognize this territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty and the Two-Row Wampum Treaty, which emphasizes the importance of joint stewardship, peace, and respectful relationships. Sheridan affirms it's our collective responsibility to honor and respect those who have gone before us, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. We are grateful for the opportunity to be working and living on this land.
In fourth year, students have to be part of a portfolio production. This is an opportunity to apply all the skills we learned throughout our college career. Delirium is a short psychological horror film on the portfolio roster this year. Jesse Thompson, the sound designer on this project, has put these skills to good use. Sound is definitely the most overlooked of the streams, but listen. It's arguably one of the most important parts of a film. No one wants to watch a movie where the dialogue sounds like it's coming out of a meat grinder, for example. So let's take a look at what Jessie has to say about her experience on Delirium.
I am the supervising sound editor on Delirium. The film Delirium is a horror thriller drama that is about mothers struggling with alcoholism. My role was supervising sound editor for Delirium, and what that role entails is being almost assisting the director with the vision for sound for the film. So it's planning when we want sound effects, music, and dialogue to happen, and how this is going to move the story forward, and how sound is going to influence each scene and encapsulate the story. So just kind of working with all that, you're recording Foley, ADR, you're mixing, so the levels of all of the sounds, and just having the creative ability and power to try out new things and put some crazy things and crazy sounds in there. And yeah, the sound is meant to encapsulate this feeling of isolation and perception of alcoholism, and how you view that in oneself and how it's viewed from the outside world. As for my progress from first year to now, I've had so much time in classes and on other projects in and outside of school to be able to build my skill both technically and creatively. It's been a really cool process to look back and see the different sound design I was doing back then to now, and just all the new techniques and skills that I learned and was able to pick up, not just from the assignments, but also from my peers and from profs. So I think it was pretty cool to be able to bring that all together into this project and see where that takes me, I guess. After working on Delirium, I can definitely see myself going into the sound field. I've definitely played around a lot these past 4 years of figuring out my path of which stream I want to go into, whether that's camera or sound, but getting to work on this and having a director who was so supportive of my creative vision and also worked so well with mine, it's just been such a great experience that it makes me want to continue this path to sound, a career in sound. Yeah, maybe become a Foley artist or a sound mixer, sound designer. My favorite part of the sound editing experience so far has been this one hallway scene. It's very intense. There's a lot of cool sound design elements in there, and it's also very dramatic and it's very pivotal to the continuation of the story. So I think that part was the best so far, but there's a lot of cool parts. I think my biggest advice for up-and-coming filmmakers or younger years would be to be very open to new possibilities and being creative in new ways. I think I was kind of shocked, like I never wanted to be in sound really when I came to school, but being open to it and learning all these new technologies and meeting all the people in different streams and such was really interesting. It really opened my mind to being creative in new ways and just getting to grow. That's a wrap.
Now, Sheridan has produced some spectacular works over the years, from short documentaries to streaming live shows like the one that you're watching right now. I think it's time for us to look at the student body of work the past year, from faraway year of 2021.
Film Paper Lanterns. Paper Lanterns is a coming-of-age drama about a Chinese adoptee in Western culture experiencing culture dysphoria after visiting her friend's place for dinner. As a director of photography for Paper Lanterns, a good way to think about it is telling the story visually if they couldn't hear any dialogue. That included making lighting plans, booking equipment, location scouting with the director and production designer, and collaborating with the director and the production designer as well to make sure that the color palette and the composition you were planning will all look cohesive for the means of telling this story specifically. Our stylistic approach was to try separating our main character, who was feeling isolated from her own culture, with the Chinese family she was visiting. So we used lots of reds and golds and warmer tones with the family and gave her blue and like whites and like grays within her clothing, color palette. The way we lit the scenes was warm versus cool to really differentiate those two worlds. And then when we had that protagonist enter the other household, she was really standing out and visually looking isolated from her surroundings. Paper Lanterns is an example of a film that aimed to diversify the crew behind the camera, the crew, the cast in front of the camera, the story, representation itself, and that's just an example of how the industry is moving forward and progressing and growing in a more equitable sense, and it's really exciting to see the variety of new stories we'll have coming out in the next coming years. My favorite part of this production was getting to work with some of my best friends on my lighting and camera team. They made the set so much fun, and it wouldn't have looked the same without the talent of my peers. My advice for young filmmakers coming into this program is that you should just put yourself out there and believe you can do anything. Like, I was really lucky that I got asked to be a director of photographer for a portfolio film, but you should believe in yourself and ask to be that role. Put yourself out there and suggest, hey, I could do this for you. I think I could do this best, and I can show the world what I can do in this film with you. So really have confidence in yourself. Looking back on my work in first year is an insane jump to what I can do now, and the amount of stress I would feel just bringing out one camera and one light to shoot something so simple to me now is crazy. Like, the difference of production and the scale of what we do now, it's amazing to see the progress and growth we've made and will continue to do. It's surprising how much you learn every production. I felt so honored to be a DOP for a project, and I loved the role. I loved getting that leadership responsibility, and I'm really grateful I got this opportunity. So I would love to continue in camera, keep learning more about this industry, keep learning more about what we can achieve visually. I think it's a really exciting and continuously changing field, and it's continually developing and getting better. So I think that's really exciting. And that's what I call a wrap, and I better see you at Sheridan next year.
Sorry, I just got caught up at work.
It's 10:39.
I'm not too sure if I'll be able to make it over there.
What? Why?
Something is going on at the station tonight. Something I can't really explain.
This is just some stupid joke, and
I'm not smart enough to know what's going on here. This envelope right here contains my new name if we can't get this whole mess sorted out.
It's quite significant. It got to the point that a social worker was starting to have to go to the play because more often than not, a kid would disclose.
If you really cared about him, you'd start to work on yourself.
Are you serious?
Please leave a message after the tone.
Night, Lou.
So I basically had to out myself to my parents in order for this teacher to call me my name. He would not do it and actually made me change my name on the attendance.
The judge in court looked at me and she's like, I've never seen anybody wanting to change as much as you, but I've never seen anybody as afraid as you.
I need help, and I can't seem to find any. No matter how hard I try, I'm stuck, and there's no way out. I'm trapped.
Right here. Right here.
This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real.
I'm sorry about all the messages. I just miss you. That's all. Could you still come over today? I know it's late. I can make some food for us.
I wish things could just stay the same. I wish I could live in this moment with you forever.
The whole setup here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. What's the rails?
So this is track.
The same?
So
This is the reference. You're going to be here. Take one step
Yeah, no,
here.
by all means,
And then you're going to have
so
Caroline
when
over
we're
there.
doing-
Yeah,
when
of
we're
course.
doing a shot, we go around. So we have this set up. Right now, Hussein's in the middle of our.
Hey, Hussein's live right now. Can you guys hear me?
Go all the way around, and then of course, there'll be an operator. This is a dolly grip. Nurk over there has a remote focus unit. Nurk, where's your focus unit? Okay.
Something satisfying about finding a sort of metaphorical encapsulation of what you're going through in life. Things that we just couldn't have imagined. Bizarre Sisyphean experience is basically modern life.
Do not tell me you intended on going alone.
Heavens, no.
We could go right now. I'm great company, I swear.
You should never think that just because they are little, they can't do something. Because by golly, we will find a way to do it. Don't underestimate us.
Perhaps we could just disappear.
Stop doing that.
Doing what?
Going somewhere else.
I'm right here.
I can see that.
I'm sure if we met, there'd be magic. Magic doesn't get the job done unless you're a magician.
You'll be back to your normal self in a week. I guarantee you things will go back to the way they were before.
Just let it happen?
I don't have feet or the flexibility. I have to do something different.
Fine. Move across the country. Leave me. Leave your mess. Leave your home.
我回不去，你应该高兴才对啊。
Você não gosta daqui, você não quer voltar. O que você quer?
Every time I played, I'm there with her at the shore.
Is it okay if I keep you on the line?
Sex is kind of part of like our bodies and our everyday lives, yet it's like such a hard conversation to have.
I like females.
This wasn't gonna look good at the golf club.
But who said that that was a bad thing?
Don't be so dramatic.
What? I don't have anywhere to be.
Welcome back to the stream. First of all, I'm here with Prof that I just need to say a personal note. I've learned a lot from you. I really profoundly impacted me in wanting to be in camera and going directing and stuff. I feel like you need no introduction. This is John Neller.
Oh, thanks for saying. You're so kind. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No problem, no problem. So basically, I think we should start with basics. Like, explain the cinematography stream. It's a very broad question, but I feel like, you know, of all people, you should be able to explain this.
Okay, cinematography stream. You'll start off in first year, first semester. You'll take an intro to cinematography course. All students take that. And if you really love cinematography, you can carry on into second year. You'll do intermediate camera. And then in the second semester, you'll do lighting and grip. And then if you still really love cinematography, you can go on to DOP 1 in third year, and then DOP 2. And then what you use those skills for is your core 2 productions, which is a large production with at least 15 people on the crew. And there's numerous camera and lighting positions that are involved in those shows. We usually do about 16 shows in core 2 and roughly about the same number in portfolio. And by that point, you pretty much have you're well on your way to having professional skills. And if you look around and come into our room B122, you'll see we have an Arri Amira camera, which is industry standard. Yeah, I would say of many of the schools we have the best equipment, we think, and we also think have professors are supremely passionate about their areas, and quite a good diversity in terms of the experience that we have. So yeah, I think the cinematography stream is very, very strong. We consistently have the most number of awards with our school. Like, we basically get more awards for our cinematography than all the other schools combined. So we're really proud of that, and it really sort of is a testament to the students' really, really hard work. And also the really great sort of teaching they get. And like I said, everyone in the department is really passionate about what we do, so we just try to get the students feeling the same way about film, being passionate about it. That's our job, is to kind of feed that passion.
And that's a very good answer. And by the way, like, camera, there's a lot of crazy stuff on there, like all equipment and everything. But one thing I found very overwhelming when I started was like just, you know, the challenges of camera and everything. So I actually wanted to segue to this. What do you think are like common roadblocks that students first face when they hit the cinematography, and how do you eventually see them like overcome it in general?
Well, I guess, you know, the technology can be a bit intimidating perhaps, and I think also even when you first come in, you're just trying to find your feet in terms of you know, working with a group and trying to figure out kind of what your pathway is. So we try to help you along with that, is sort of give you a supportive environment. Also, I think we really strive hard to have a safe space for students to be in as well. So, you know, to be really accommodating. And so I think those are sort of the things, is just trying to find your tribe, as it were, I guess would be one way of putting it, and just kind of, you know, finding teams that you want to work with, that you can work well with. So I think those are maybe the challenges, just trying to, you know, find your place and also find your way in terms of what your interests are. So many things you can do in this program that you will find there's something that you really kind of gravitate towards, whether it's sound, whether it's camera, script writing, directing, VFX, you know, editing. So I think, yeah, I think you'll find that I always find the students when they first get here, first week basically, because I have first years, is they're like a little bit sort of freaked out about the whole thing. It's their first time like away from home. If they're in this big school, they don't know anyone. But within like a week or two, it's like they found their family basically. Because, you know, the one thing about school that's different than high school is that, like, you're in a place where everyone's here for the same reason. Everyone's here because they want to be in film. That's the big difference. And you are surrounded by a bunch of like-minded people. It just kind of feeds your intellect, and it feeds your creativity, and you feel like you've kind of arrived home. I think that's how we find it. I would notice that with first-year students, because I see them as they come in, and then I see them in the weeks that follow, and it's pretty much it's about a 2 or 3 week sort of transition, and they're basically completely at ease, chatting with one another and having a good time. So yeah.
You completely hit the nail about how you feel in first week. It's actually, it's very crazy. I was there, but like, I feel like you make a good environment. Like, I can say from personal experience, you just give us the C300, say, go out, make stuff, and that's what we do. Sure, at first our work's not really the best, but you know what? I really feel like you create that environment. I was in this class in first semester and first year. Yep, he remembers. Yeah, it was really fun. So I actually would like to ask another thing. So like, from what you observe from students in like say the 4 years, all right? What do you think gets them a long way in the industry, like throughout those 4 years in Sheridan, and what do you think transitions them into the industry really well? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, I think the main thing is just learning how to be a professional. Is sort of having the reliability, so people can rely on you in your communications. So if you have to answer an email, you sort of get to that promptly, and if you're on set, you're on time. And if you're on set, you're sort of a reasonable person to work with. You don't try to do too many things. You know your role. You kind of know what your responsibilities are, and you're an integral part of the team. And that doesn't just come overnight. That's not something you learn automatically. So that's what we do here, is we try to get people, sort of students, to understand their roles, understand how to work with one another, and just the experience of doing it, I think, is where you learn. And then getting sort of tutelage along the way helps, I think. But film is one of those things, you learn it by doing it, and we're really hands-on in this program. We're really solid with the critical theory aspect of it as well, but we've sort of back that up with really solid hands-on work. So I think it's a really sort of well-balanced program in that regard. You sort of understand the technical, but technical is only useful up to the point that you have an idea. So we really try to feed your ideas as well, so that you can bring those ideas to life in film.
I really think you hit the nail. Well, I think that's all the time I have for you. John, thank you very much. I'm really glad to talk to you again, right?
Nice to chat with you again.
I'll see you in class, yeah.
Take care. See ya.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks.
Produced last year in our course, and that is about half of the festivals they've been in. They've been extraordinarily successful with that documentaries, but just gives you a sense that some of our films do really well. And the CPC has licensed, nearly every year they've licensed one of our documentaries for broadcast. So that's been pretty cool to see as well. Just as an example of some of our really successful grads. Now these grads, keeping in mind, these grads are grads of our predecessor program, the Media Arts program, which was not a degree program, it was a diploma program. So they go back a ways. So this is Craig Hennigan, who was in that program, Media Arts. He graduated in 1995. He's an immensely successful sound designer. And so you recognize the shows that he's involved with, Stranger Things being the biggest one, maybe. One of the most successful TV shows maybe of the last 5 to 6 years. And so he's been nominated for Oscars. He's won multiple Emmys. He's hugely successful. And we had him in as a guest speaker in the fall. And it was really interesting to hear him talk about his experience at Sheridan. BB10, one of the rooms that's on our walking tour downstairs, our audio studio, he talked a lot about how back in the 90s, the early 90s, how he spent all his time down in that room, BB10. So keep in mind, the guy who invented all those crazy sound for Stranger Things, he started in that room with his career. Another example, so Wendy Hallam Martin, again, a grad of Media Arts in the 80s, another primetime Emmy win for The Handmaid's Tale, for editing in this case, and she's had a number of other big awards that she's won. And finally, Jill Purdy, again in the sound editing area, 2 primetime Emmy nominations, 2 Canadian Screen Awards, 10 Directors Guild of Canada Awards, hugely successful. And again, so one of our wins you can see on the right there is for Stranger Things. So I tried to fit a lot into these slides, and I spoke really fast, so hopefully I got through it in time. We have enough time for some questions. Again, that's my name. I'm Randall, and I'm one of the program coordinators. As I said, we'll give you these slides if you sign up for an email over in the sign-up sheets over there. There must be questions, though. So, yeah.
I know that there's opportunities for co-op and
Yes.
What year and what for co-op is
So it's actually necessary. It's part of the program. It's industry mandated that you have to do co-op. And our students do their co-op between 3rd and 4th year in the summer. Now, there is a course that happens the previous fall. And who's 3rd year here? Hannah's 3rd year. Right. So you just finished that co-op course. And have you found your co-op placement yet? Yeah.
And yeah, so it's lots of exciting things. To apply for like a stop motion, like internship, really cool. That we're doing our program.
So we do have a representative from the co-op office who helps students with that. But we also encourage students to be self-motivated and get out there and try and find their own placement, because really that placement can be instrumental in getting hired after school. So if you want to, for example, want to be an editor, getting a placement in a place that does editing is kind of important. And so we try and get the students to get themselves to a place where they can maybe get that kind of a placement. Okay, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. So we're not looking for any specific technical experience. So when you start in first year, the courses that you take, first of all, almost all the courses in first year are handed to you. You don't pick courses in first year. And they're across all different disciplines: cinematography, post-production, directing. So there isn't any expectation that you know, for example, how to use a particular camera or how to use particular software for editing. We teach you that. Okay? So when you apply our application process, those of you who have applied for next fall, you already know that our process changed a bit for this year, in that we didn't ask for a portfolio film. We asked for a statement of intent this time. So we're looking for students who are motivated, who clearly have aspirations that they can describe. So we're not expecting that they know for sure what they want to do when they graduate. But they should have a sense maybe of at least what the opportunities are that are beyond school, and have those represented in that statement of intent. Okay, there is a full rubric for how we're scoring it online if you want to have a look at that. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned that you use a laptop. What about the cameras, lighting, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Nice to take forward, work on projects?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, we have a huge equipment room. It actually serves, I think, 11 or 13 programs. And if you go on that walking tour, it does take you through the hallway that goes past the equipment room, which I believe is open today, so you can probably peek through the door. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a huge amount of equipment, and I don't have any way to back this up, but I believe until I hear it different from someone, that we are probably one of the best equipped or the best equipped film programs in the country. The cameras that we have, the lighting equipment that we have, all the stuff that goes with a camera that you'll see if you go next door to B122, we have a lot of gear. Okay, and in first year, students don't get access to that much gear because they have to be trained to use it first. But by the time they get to fourth year, they basically get to use what they need to shoot the film they're trying to shoot. Yeah. Other questions? No? So if you go on one of these tours, the students that are giving the tour, I'm sure they'll be perfectly happy to answer questions. There's also, as I said, there's faculty in every room that you're visiting, so you can absolutely ask them questions as well if things occur to you as you're going for your walk. We have a break before our next presentation in here anyway, because the next one's not till noon. So if there's a question you want to ask me, feel free to come back and ask me a question as well. Okay? But thank you very much. It's been great to have you here this morning, and enjoy your day here at Sheridan. Yeah, yeah.
I'm Minerva. I am in fourth year and I'm in the directing stream. I think though what inspires me to direct the most is being able to share stories that I once tried to repress, especially as someone who, is an immigrant, is colored, and is a woman. I kind of spent the majority of my early days in filmmaking thinking that there was no room for me and my stories that I wanted to share. So to be able to finally have that space to craft a story and a whole narrative and be supported by it, it feels like validation. I think that the way that the directing stream helped me cultivate relationships on set is by emphasizing ways of communication. All of the different terminologies and all of the respective challenges that each department faces. All of the different directing classes that I've had class in was able to highlight those challenges so we can better face it and support each other as we collaborate throughout the process.
My name is Sarah Bernier, and I am in the cinematography stream at Sheridan College in the Bachelor of Film and TV Production. You do a lot of hands-on activities relating to lighting setups and camera setups. You have the opportunity to use all of the equipment that Sheridan has to offer. A fun project that you can do in the cinematography stream is a scene recreation. So you take one scene from a movie and you're trying to replicate everything from it, from the camera movements to the lighting design and how it falls on the faces of the characters when we graduate or when we're still in school and we're working on other independent films and they have all of this new equipment. I feel like since we've been learning it in school, we'll be a little less worried and a little more at ease. The cinematography stream has helped me look at films differently. You're constantly thinking about all of the little details that you never really thought about before, but now your movie experience has changed forever.
Hi, I'm CS. I'm a fourth year BFTV student in the writing stream and also in the sound stream. Well, in the writing stream, we basically study the craft of putting a story together. So in that sense, it's quite similar to editing, but you're kind of doing it from the other end of the process. So you're right there from the beginning. Often they only give you like a 7 minutes script or 3 minute script or something, and you have to get creative like that. So a lot of people go into BFTV thinking they're gonna script a feature, but that's not gonna happen, and you have to be realistic. So in the writing stream, there's a few things that you get from it that you might find it difficult to get outside. And firstly, that's access to the professors. So far the professors I've had in the writing stream, they've been great to work with. They give excellent feedback. So the second thing about the writing stream is that you also get to give feedback to your peers on their stories, and that's very instructive. Giving feedback to your peers is a very productive learning experience, I think, because it forces you to analyze a story deeper than the surface level of I didn't like it, or I didn't like the character, I didn't like the story. It forces you to have to answer the question like, why didn't you like it, and have to back that up with a reason. Often the most useful part of like these writing classes is often the story editing sessions, when we're all sitting in a room and we're all exchanging ideas on why a story is working or why a story isn't. I think my favorite aspect of being a writer is probably the amount of control, which is also my least favorite part of being a writer, I think, because it's kind of exhilarating when you're at the beginning of a project and you kind of can write. You feel like you can write about anything, and that high lasts up until you have to start writing it, and then you realize that you can actually write about anything and you don't know where to go.
My name's Christian Kenyete, and I am in sound.
I'm William McNaught, and I'm in fourth year sound. So the sound stream here at Sheridan is kind of made up of like two pathways, right? So we have like the location and production audio and studio recording, so anything to do with mics, and then the other half of this stream would be more about like post-production audio.
The studio spaces that we have available to us, they are like specifically audio treated. I've noticed that when people hear the final sound for their film, their love for their film goes up like 110%.
Yeah, it really is the icing on the cake when it comes to sound,
exactly.
isn't it? Yeah, it kind of just wraps it all up.
I would say that what we learn here in the sound stream is very similar to how audio post-production works in the industry. Going into sound, you stumble across a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, it's huge, and I just don't think that there's like people know enough about sound, right? Like it is such a massive industry, and it for the most part just kind of stays underground, and it's kind of cool to be able to share it with the world and surface it back up a little bit and say like, hey, this is important too, right? This is the other half of film.
My name's Dawson Pachaco.
My name is Leo Woolley.
I'm a fourth year in BFTV, and I'm majoring in the editing stream.
I'm in the editing stream in fourth year.
So what I do in the editing stream, especially in fourth year, is that we tend to lead the post-production process on films. So particularly the picture edit. So what we do is gather all of the footage, dailies, everything from productions, and edit them together from start to finish, following storyboards, scripts, kind of guidelines, and what directors and producers want us to kind of finish producing as the final product for our films.
There's about 3 when it comes to editing, because there's the main picture editor, there's post supervisor, which basically just keeps everybody on schedule, and then there's assistant editor that kind of helps organize everything. But I guess there's also like colorist and sound editor if you're going to sound, but that's more of their stuff.
On set, not too much, since we do tend to stay at the very end of the production process. However, myself, I kind of still want to be involved, so I'd say the most common job you can do is DIT, which is data technician for on set. You're basically in charge of getting all of the content off of memory cards from cameras, audio equipment, labeling them, making sure everything's organized. That makes your job and everyone else in the post-production team's job a lot easier in post.
You're able to actually change the look of the film a lot more than people realize you do, because I feel like a lot of people really think that when you're trying to get the whole look of the film, you get like production design and like camera and lighting and all that, but editing, it really is like a big stylistic standpoint of it, and if a film has bad editing, you can tell, and it makes it look really bad. So I guess that's like a bonus of the editing stream, because a lot of people think they're self-taught editors, and it turns out pretty rough.
I really like putting stories together that have been worked on for a really long time, especially when we could sit down at the beginning of the process and really plan out storyboards so that we can get this really awesome look or flow to the story going from the beginning and carry it into post. And me personally, as someone who's been getting into coloring as a colorist, I've been really liking that aspect of post as being able to color grade and color correct footage.
Well, a lot of the stream really teaches you like industry standard stuff. Like you learn Avid, which is like a big thing, and it's gotten me a lot of editing jobs because it's like a very complicated program that's like hell to try to learn it on your own. So the fact that you actually get to learn it is like really nice. And also just like you learn a lot of the aspects and the really like small things that normal people don't really notice, and you kind of like put it into the edit to make it look a lot better.
The number one thing that you can do coming into editing is being as like organized and focused as you can. It sounds a little weird for some people who like doing it as like a hobby or a pastime, or it's just something they genuinely like doing in their free time. It will make your time go by faster, better, easier if you are a lot more organized. Try to keep things both in your mind, on your computer, in your notes, everything kind of just in this flow, like this workflow, this pipeline that you create for yourself, because it's going to make your job easier. It's going to make anybody who collaborates jobs easier. And from my experience being in the editing stream and taking courses, that's like one of the biggest things they hammer into us is label your bins, label all of your files, be organized, because that is going to be the difference between getting a job after school and struggling to get a job after school. It's like how you apply yourself.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm definitely not running around all over the place, but not like that matters. I'm here with Tracy German. I'm one of the profs for Core 1. Thank you very much for being here. I wanted to ask you, first of all, let's just start with basics. Core 1, just describe it in general. Like, what do you guys do?
Okay, so it's a course that is interested in telling or showing how to produce a documentary from the beginning all the way through the production stages, pre-production, production, post-production. We start off with a pitch. Students have to write a pitch. It has to be a 6-minute documentary pitch, so it's a short documentary. That's what happens in the first few weeks. So we start them off with getting them used to the pitching process, and they will submit a 1-page pitch to do. Then we select the pitches that go forward to be produced. And there's a lot of paperwork in this course. They learn in a practical sense how to do pre-production, so all the way through to production. There's about it varies on the year how many we produce, but there's all variety. We're very much interested in personal perspectives, people that have a voice and developing their voice in filmmaking. So we were looking for diversity, different types of stories that can be highlighted. Often first person is very effective means of telling stories. Students have done anywhere from skateboarding that we've seen on the show already, Shove It, and the LGBTQ kind of perspective, trying to skew the perspective a little bit. There's also documentaries that run the gamut of perspectives, and from trans experience to Indigenous experience to BIPOC and that type of perspective. So we're very much, we teach in a large cohort, so it's the whole third year cohort that is working together. So it's a team building exercise, leadership. The actual producer takes on a very significant role, and they learn how to manage a production, and then all the practicalities that they've been working on in their electives kind of come together and are utilized within the productions.
And I'd like to say the work that you guys produced last year, the last core class, really speaks for itself. Really unique, diverse type, and people are just telling the story. They really find it unique. I really want to ask this one thing. So a lot of people who go into BFT, let's be honest, they really want to make narratives, and they don't really think about making documentaries. But I really think it's beneficial. So I really want to hear from your perspective. What do you think is about like documentaries and making them do it in like the first semester there that makes them better narrative storytellers, say when they go to core number 2 when they make narrative films?
So documentary is actually Canada's first filmmaking voice, so to speak. The NFB, the National Film Board, was a studio that came out of John Grierson and kind of this think tank to make Canadian voices. We have, of course, to the south, the dominant dramatic engine, which is Hollywood. It's very, very hard to compete against Hollywood with the budgets they have and you know, the studio system and stars and all of that. But what Canada does really, really, really well is documentaries. We have made many, many significant contributions to the voice of real voices. And in particular, how I came to it, I was a student actually in prior to BFTV, there was something called Media Arts, and I was a student back in the 90s here, and I had professors that kind of led me to this kind of autoethnographic, or which is a kind of anthropology, which turns the camera on oneself to tell their own unique stories, and from their own cultural perspective. I'm an Indigenous woman, but I straddle both sides of being Indigenous and also having my background with you know, settler ancestry as well. So I have both. But I was on a journey for reclamation, regaining my identity as an Indigenous woman, which had been stripped away through government, through a number of protocols like residential school and reservations and things like that. But little by little, I gained confidence, and Sheridan was a place that was open for first-person perspectives, quieter, kind of contemplative, more experimental approaches to cinema, and that allowed me to develop my voice as a documentarian. And over the years, that has been something that has developed into a commercial television series that I produced and made, which is called Wild Archaeology. So I would say all of our professors here, including myself, have a practical foot in the door in the industry, as well as within an academic teaching model as well. So.
Really love that response there. I actually want to ask you another thing. So obviously, being a crew, being a team, is a big deal, and obviously sometimes problems arise and stuff, but I'm wondering, what do you think makes a great team, a great production crew for, in general, for Core 1? Like when problems arise, what makes a good team overcome that, and what makes a good team work together well, from what you observed?
I would think respect, which is earned to a certain degree. Filmmaking always throws, you know, problems. There's no production that doesn't have problems, from audio to camera to, you know, talent that doesn't show up to locations that you were trying to film at that don't pan out. There's going to be problems. There's technical problems for sure going to happen. Everybody has to try to remain positive and committed to the production. That's, I think, the main thing that the producer and the director have to try to kind of coalesce, is the vision behind the project and its importance. And everybody, that's the guiding light, so that people remain on target, so to speak. Because tempers will flare, people will get hungry, people will get tired, things will not work out. At the end of the day, people have to come back together and say, I'm sorry, I wasn't my best at that moment, but I'll, you know, try again. You know, I guess it's being open to the fact that we're human. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to lose our tempers at times and not be our best. But with some sleep and a little bit of food and water, we should be okay again. So I think that's also it, is that we have to forgive each other as well.
It's a really wonderful response. I really feel like you encapsulated Core 1 in general. I think that's all the time we have, but Tracy, thank you very much. And hopefully everyone have a great time here.
Thank you.
All right, so One Happy Fan is only one of the documentaries actually produced in Core 1 last term. There were so many amazing others, but let's take a look at what other projects these aspiring documentarians have just made in the past year.
My name is Eden Wasserman, and I directed a short documentary for Core 1 called One Happy Van. My dad has a VW camper van, 1977 Westphalia, that he inherited from his grandparents, and they bought it in '78. And so they took it from coast to coast to coast. So all around Canada, and the whole family would pack in for a couple of weeks in the summer. And then when my dad inherited, we wouldn't do anything like that crazy, but every summer he would take my sister and I camping and stuff like that, or we would go visit my grandparents up north. I always knew that the story would get to like a slightly deeper place, because my Opa, the original owner of the van, passed away due to Alzheimer's a couple of years ago. So again, this movie was kind of like, for him and my family, kind of like a time capsule. My roommate Braden Smith, he was the cinematographer on it. He was almost like a co-director in a way, because he honestly came up with the idea, because I was like, well, I don't know anything about like social issues like too in depth, like what am I gonna do? He's like, why don't you do it on your van? And then so we kind of sat down at the table and had like this plan of like a little van road trip going. My favorite part about working on the film was that it didn't feel like I was working on anything. So it was just me and like some of my closest friends here at Sheridan. Like I said, two of my roommates, Marco and Braden, and then a good close friend of mine, Alex, and he's a sound master. So we were just driving around all day. Like the setups weren't too complicated because there was a lot of natural lighting. So Braden did a great job of making it look fantastic, just with the natural lighting we had and stuff like that. And my favorite part was just like shooting the shit with everyone on set. Like my dad, who's usually kind of awkward, he would like fit in like right away, and we were all just like, especially like our craft services was like just like a campfire, and we had like hot dogs and stuff. So like we were all just going around telling stories about, like, he was throwing stories from when he was in college and we were sharing ours, and it was just such a fun like weekend. Like I felt like I was gone for a whole week. It was awesome. If you're a director or higher up, I think it's really beneficial to know kind of each department's requirements. Like, cause I took a few editing classes, some lighting and grip classes. Like I kind of get what they need to do what they do. And so I feel like a lot of the directors are kind of like, oh, like why is this light not set up like you were supposed to be set up, blah, blah, because they don't understand. And then, especially if you're like a gaffer and you don't feel understood or you're feeling pressured and blah, 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 then it's not gonna be for a great shoot. So just really know kind of your departments, know your people. You just have to understand that everyone's just trying to do their best, and you gotta kind of be patient at least. Man, first year, I don't even know, because like first year was like, we were all online, so my progress definitely increases, because yeah, like obviously we have a lot of equipment to use now, so a lot of lights, which lighting really sells a student film and whatnot. Like I feel like it can make or break a student film, so if you have certain lights and you know how to use them well, and that's good. The camera quality is also insane because we're using C300s for third year, but I know fourth year you use like the RE cameras and stuff like that. It's also just fun to see. You kind of like take a step back and you kind of look around you you're kind of on a film set and you're like, holy crap, how did I end up here? I'd like to be like on set more, whether like kind of work your way up through like the lighting department kind of, but obviously I think directing is where I really want to be. As a joke, when I was in art fundamentals, so Ethan Bracken, I was like, what time is it? If we were out late, and he was like, I don't know, man, it's like Tuesday night morning or whatever. So that kind of became a little joke production company. And so I'm gonna slowly try to see if we can do anything with that, because like I really found the crew here at Sheridan. Like everyone I know is top at what they do. So like if we could kind of take that into a more professional direction and kind of get that going on the side while we all pursue professional stuff, that would probably be the peak. That would be the end goal there for sure.
Part of the plan, guys. I am trying to. Cord is. No. We'll give it a sec. Almost there, sort of there. You know what? I think it's good enough. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Well, guys, welcome back to the stream. We're here with the man, the myth, the legend, Didier of editing. I have a lot. I'll pay you later for that. No, trust me. Your reputation precedes you in portfolio. You're an entertaining character. I'm just gotta say it. You're really funny. All right, so I think we should start at the basics. Okay. The editing stream. Just describe it in your words and like what people should expect from it.
Well, I mean, editing is a huge part of the filmmaking. This is when everything comes together. Like when you're sitting in an audience and everybody laughs at exactly the same time, everybody cries at the same time, everybody jumps at the same time at a scary moment. You wonder, how did that happen to a whole room? And that's the editor's job, is to emotionally get you guys involved in the film as an audience, and that's what we take pride in doing here. As far as the streams here at Sheridan, I want all my students to leave the program with at least 2 editing pieces of software under their belt. We start off in the first year with Adobe Premiere. A lot of the students coming in from high schools will already have experience, so it gives them a sort of comfort level to kind of continue their learning and can get more involved with the program. And then when we get to like the second, third, and fourth year, we start concentrating on whatever the industry leader software is at the moment. So for the last 20 years, it's been Avid Media Composer has been kind of leading the pack. A lot of the feature films that we see on TV, a lot of the feature films we go watch in movie theaters are all cut on Avid Media Composer. So in order for our students to have a chance to make a career of it, we want to give them every opportunity to have the tools available to them. So on the screen behind us, you'll see that we've got actually Avid Media Composer running. And so we start them off with smaller and smaller projects, and then as they work up with complexity, and then we start adding all sorts of other elements. I like all my assignments to have a problem. I don't give any students student assignments. Everything that they edit is professionally shot. So we get footage from the industry so that they're aware and see what the industry deals with, and again, prepares them for what the industry is going to expect from them when they get out. I don't know, what else do you want to know? By the time they reach fourth year and they're working on their thesis film, it's pretty much all semester, excuse me, all semester they're going to be working on their thesis film. So probably in the first semester they're going to get most of the pre-production and production done. And then towards the end of the first semester, they're going to start working on their post. So that's picture post, and that'll take them probably into about February. And then they'll go into audio post after that. And then while audio post is going, we get the students to do their color correction, their special effects, all that stuff as well. So that by the time they get to April, their thesis films are sort of getting ready to complete. So it's a pretty full schedule. I mean, the one thing that I like about the program here at Sheridan is it's a hands-on program. There's, from week one, the moment you walk into the program, you're working on workshops, you're handling the gear, whether that be camera, audio, whatever it is. So that's one of the things that the school is known for, is that when you leave here at the school, you are ready for the industry.
And very well said, well worded. They say you know the film is written 3 times, once in writing, once in filming, and of course once in the editing room.
Yeah, the final script is in the edit suite.
Exactly. So what I want to ask you, so just in general from your observation, say a student joins your second year when they start getting the editing stream, where do you see them like improve? Like say like are they day one till till the final day in the 4th year, and like how do you see them improve? How do you see them motivate? Cuts better. I'm just kind of curious. What's your observation on that?
Well, a lot of things I do is I find important is feedback. So the way I work with my assignments in my class, every student gets the same footage. So everybody's cutting the exact same thing. And then once the assignment is due, we have what is called a critique day. So the whole class gets together, we sit and we watch everybody's edit, or as many as we can get in the time allotted. And we get the students to critique their own work. And what I find important about that is they get to see what other students do with the same footage they received. And they'll go, oh, I never thought of putting those 2 shots together. That works a lot better. Or that's a different take, or it's a different feeling, or I felt emotionally different about this part of the scene than I did in my own. To me, that's one of the most important parts of my classes, is that we get that feedback out to the students. Generally, as a young student, even if they've been editing in school, they think they're pretty good at editing. By the time they get to me, they start realizing there's other levels that they can actually get to. And that's my whole goal, is to push them up to that next level. And we're always comparing them to what the industry is expecting and what an industry editor would have done. So at the end of the critique session, the last thing we see is actually the finished film the way it was cut professionally. So then they can actually compare their work to what the industry did, and again, open their eyes up to what the possibilities were with the footage, right? By the time they get to the 4th year, I'm just a consultant, to be honest with you. They reached a level where I'm going, hey, let's just tweak a little bit of that. I'll ask a general question is, why did we use this shot instead of a close-up, for instance? And generally, they have a pretty good answer for me. So I'm kind of just coasting by the 4th year, and I've just become a sort of a mentor as opposed to actually teaching.
Very inspiring. I do also want to ask you essentially, so you talk a lot, you're just telling me a lot about how your editors are, sorry? All right, there you go. No, we got peaked audio here. You talk a lot about how like editors, like they're ready for the industry, and I really agree with that, because I've seen the people who work in the industry here, they're professionals and all that stuff. But I want to hear your observation. What makes them prepare for the industry when they take your classes, for example?
I'm a hard ass. There's no sugarcoating. I have one job here. I'm not here to be their friend. I'm not here to be part of their posse or their clique. My job is to get them ready for the industry. So I don't sugarcoat things for the students. When they make a mistake or something, I tell them they make a mistake. I don't say, oh, nice try. But I always make sure that I explain, okay, instead of doing this, what could you have done differently, right? How could you have fixed this? And I try to get them to give me the answer instead of me telling them the answer. So, you know, I try to, every one of my class emulates the industry. I tell my students, when they're in class, they're not students. They are professionals in the industry. I'm the post supervisor, and I expect the same kind of behavior. I expect the same kind of work ethic. I expect the same kind of passion that they would if they were in the industry. And I think a lot of schools, you know, do the best they can to teach them the hardware, the software, all that kind of stuff. I find that I take my students, or I try to take my students, and try to get them to start thinking professionally and what code of conducts are, and you know, when class starts at 9, I don't want you to walk into class at 9, you have to be seated ready to work at 9, kind of thing, right? So everything relates back to what is the expectation of the industry.
Oh. And wonderful stuff. We should learn work ethic and everything. All right, well, I have time for one more question. This is just a kind of a joke. I just want to ask you, your professional opinion, career pro or avid?
It doesn't matter. You know, both programs, there's another program that you haven't mentioned, Resolve, which is making big inroads. What I do is I teach what the industry is using right now. So depending on what part of the industry you want, right now if we're taking a look at sort of the higher end of the industry, feature films, television, the vast majority is on Avid Media Composer. So if Avid Media Composer is what's going to get our students jobs, then that's what I'm going to concentrate on. If we do this interview 2 years from now and it's Resolve that is king, or if it's Premiere that is king, guess what you're going to see in the classroom. We're training editors. We're not training button pushers, right? So I don't care if you can press buttons on here. I'm hiring you for your brain and your thinking.
Oh, and wonderful observation. Well, Dave, thank you very much. Really insightful. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Are we off?
Yeah, we're off.
God, I hate that.
We're good. We are.
And I am. Okay, the main problem is that Hussein seriously puts his mouth.
My name is Ian. I was the producer of Shove It. Our film was about women and queer people in the skateboarding community and their representation and how they're underrepresented. I also was a co-writer, so I helped a lot with developing the story, like what we wanted to tell. Pre-production, you know, as a producer, you're doing everything you can think of, whether it be making sure I can legally film on locations, to securing interview times and dates with our subjects, to organizing our transmedia, to doing any of that. Actually on set, I was honestly just doing paperwork and budgeting and giving inputs on shot selection and location and stuff. I was kind of helping, making sure we stayed on track of the story that we pre-planned. And then going into post, I was really involved in the edit. I made a lot of critiques and changes to make sure it fit the vision that we wanted to. When I first heard about like writing a documentary, I was like, what are you talking about? Like you don't need to write one, like it's nonfiction. But there's so many stories you can tell in nonfiction. So when we were writing it, we knew who we wanted to talk about and what we wanted to talk about, but we need to know what they're gonna say and how we can guide a narrative. You want to let everyone be their authentic selves and then use that to, I guess, guide an overarching theme. Yeah, what we did, especially when writing, was when we talked to our subjects, we kind of gave them like a rough list of questions before we started shooting. So we kind of had an idea of what they were going to say and what they wanted to say while they were there. But in documentary, people will say stuff that you're not expecting, and honestly, that they're not expecting either. So it was nice to have some new angles that we got to work with in post-production. Shove It, while it does tackle serious themes like gender roles and misrepresentation and things like that, we have a really good time with it. Because at the end of the day, the women and the people that we interviewed are also having a really good time with skateboarding. So we had a good time. Like even in the credits of our film, the entire idea of our credits is that a lot of our crew can't skate, we just care about the issue. So what we did at the end of the credits was we all tried to do a jump on a skateboard, and none of us could. So it's just like a compilation of us almost all of us wiping out on a skateboard. You gotta have some fun. I think people take filmmaking a little bit too seriously sometimes, that they think they need to make some art film, be an auteur, you know, they not need to be the next Tarantino. But I think at the end of the day, like, we're in school, we're experimenting with film and what we want to do and who we want to be. And you need to be able to have some fun and just let loose and let your imagination run wild, kind of. With Shove It, it started out as something more serious and hard-hitting and something like that we wanted to make, almost like an expose, was how it started. And it ended up turning into us just talking about an amazing group called Babes Brigade, who runs a lot of like women-led skateboarding activities. And we just like chatted with them about how great the community is there and how it's growing. It was awesome. We just had a great time. So just have some fun. Thinking about any of the stuff I made in first year and the stuff I'm making now, it's night and day. Yeah, I'm making work that I'm proud of now, I think. And coming back, looking at some of the stuff I made in first year, especially my first year was like mid-pandemic. So comparing that kind of stuff to the stuff I'm making now, it's unreal. The stuff that I've learned and the amount my qualities went up.
Welcome back, guys. We're back in another location, back in familiar space. And one thing I gotta say, you know, unfortunately my second year was online. Kind of sucked, but you know, that's what it is. But thankfully, we do have someone here to talk about everything who's actually a second year now. Your name's Elise. How's it going?
Pretty freaking good. How are you?
I am doing splendid. I am running around. I am internally screaming, but you know, it doesn't like it matters.
It's great. It's the grind.
Exactly. So, just describe second year.
Yeah.
How's it been for you?
It's been crazy. It's been good. So good. I think the one thing that I've been struggling with is pacing, and doing classwork as it comes and not just leaving it to the last minute, because that is like, you know, it's the only way you can really screw yourself over in second year.
No, trust me, film is the one place you especially with all the hands-on stuff, you should never leave the last second, because
exactly.
It shows.
Exactly, yeah, especially like we're in the TV studio, second year, and yeah, we're doing a lot of shows. The first one we had 4 weeks to do, and it was kind of, parts of it were rushed because we weren't fully prepared. But with the second show, we have 3 weeks, so everything has to be, as soon as we know that we're doing it, we have to get it together. Like, script had to get done in, like 3 or 4 days? And then, yeah, we're like immediately in on blocking, shooting packages. It's a lot, but you just gotta show up, get paid, type of thing.
100%. So one thing I really find fascinating with thinking about second year, because in first year, we all have to take the same classes. It's all very general, but in second year, they're kind of like, all right, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
So how did you find that transition from, say, doing everything to specialize in one thing, and like what things did you have to overcome that as time went on?
Yeah, I think,
And by what streams are you in? We should probably tell you
yeah. So I'm in directing and assistant directing. And I think the toughest part is in first year, you're really trying to get a hang of what everything, you know, what's going on in the program. And while you're trying to understand everything and learn what you're being taught, you also have to figure out, what do I like the most? What do I actually want to do? So I think the hardest transition is like, once you're in year 2, it's like, okay, pick your streams. And it is a bit loose because I was in screenwriting and I can't even remember what else I was in for semester. It's been a blur. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely just, you have to figure out what works best for you pretty quick and nobody else is going to tell you what works best for you, so it's all just based on what you want to do. So it's it's kind of a tough transition because it's more put in your hands.
But do you feel like you made the right choice in the end?
I think so.
You meant to be a director.
Yeah, I mean, like, assistant directing, it was a mistake to go into it, and it turned out fantastic. So, like, you never know what's going to work best for you until you try it out and, you know, put your best foot forward and whatever.
I'm telling you this, you're going to be really well positioned when it comes to core and portfolio, because AD work is no joke. I think I had some great hair by the end of that month. It was insane, but, like, yeah. So a big part of second year is actually also the TV class, and I lament also you guys get to do that in person because we had to do it online and stuff. But like I do like the creative freedom our props like our church gives us. How do you find the TV class right now? Like you have to take it. So to explain to the audience, you have to take it twice. Like what in each semester? Like how do you find it in general?
Yeah, I think so. First semester you're just sort of figuring it all out. You get a run through of how the studio up there works, how the floor works, all the different positions, and then second semester you're more so just you know your position, you're going through it, you're doing shows, and it's, I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit overwhelming because it's just go, 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 know what you're doing, do what you're doing. So yeah, I think really just the most important thing is knowing how to communicate, and if anything is going wrong, just immediately communicating your needs, any ideas. But we do get a lot of creative freedom, which is awesome. Like we get to pitch all of our shows. So at the beginning, we pitched our first show, and that ended up being this super wonky newscast that just kind of made no sense. It was super absurdist comedy.
But it's funny.
It was great. It was hilarious. And it's like, it's so nice because even though the profs had no idea what we were doing, they were like, okay, well, as long as you think it's gonna work. And it did. Okay. So that was nice. Yeah.
Okay. So one also big part of second year that I find that it's essential is like figuring out your groove, figuring out your grouping of people and all that. So would you say that second year is essential, has been essential for you for like figuring out the people you jive with and work with really well? I'm just really curious.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's obviously everybody has different approaches to work, and some people are more like in your face, here's exactly what I need right here, right now. Some people are otherwise more laid back and kind of waiting for that direction. So it's just figuring out really what everybody's most comfortable doing and like their communication style, because once you understand that, you're able to work within the confines of what they're comfortable with.
All right, and I guess my last question I really got to ask you, would you say second year is preparing you really well for core and portfolio, etc.? Like, well, how do you think that's preparing you as a director, as an assistant director? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's doing a pretty darn good job because we are being thrown into the workflow. But I'm not even really sure what year 3 is going to look like. But it is definitely giving us the full rundown of what we need to understand and how to communicate to like be good at the next step. But would you say the stress and everything that you're facing this year is positioning you well for like what's probably to come next year? Likely. I mean, you know, like I said, I'm a procrastinator, so I like to put stress on myself. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's learning how to not procrastinate, and stress will still exist, but it will be in the moment as opposed to piled up over multiple days. Yeah, I think it's, just learning how to deal with the workflow will make next year a lot easier. Yeah. Well, I can say one for sure, your energy is perfection. I think you're going to go places. No, you. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We're trying out here. We're almost done here. All right, Ellie, thank you very much for the interview. Thank you. No problem. My hands are so cold. Hell yeah. Thank you. Much appreciated. No problem. No problem.
welcome back, everybody. I am back in another room with a lot clearer audio. And does that signal something? I am here to talk about the sound stream. What's your name?
My name is Alistair Gray, second year BFTV.
All right. So I want to ask you this. So first of all, just funny question. Okay. Be honest with you. When you came to BFTV in first year, did you have intentions of doing sound?
Partly, it was during the pandemic. I got into a lot of sound work in personal stuff with YouTube Shorts and such. But getting a sense of the overall first year program, you get into general courses, and sound really spoke to me in terms of that. And so now it's my field of study.
That is wonderful, because I only ask that because I don't know anyone who comes to BFTV who actually want to become a sound. But they discover it later on. And by the way, you guys are the backbone of what we do. There's no films about you guys. So I wanted to hear, essentially, you took that first year course. You're saying I like sound. Now you're thrown into Pro Tools and all this other tech. How you keeping up? Is it overwhelming, and how you're overcoming all that steps?
I mean, it's definitely overwhelming learning all of the technicalities of sound. When you come into the program in general, you're always going to have technicalities. There's going to be stuff about the camera that you're never going to understand, partly until you get into your career. There's going to be stuff about lighting that you're never going to understand. And they'll teach you as much as they can about the basics, but it's up to you to sort of work at it and figure out the technicalities of this program. And generally, anyone can use it. It's just about committing time and committing effort to putting into it.
Would you say you're a post-sound person, or you want to be on-set sound? I'm just kind of curious.
I mean, that's sort of the beauty of the course, is that both the general course and courses of sound will teach you both. And once you learn, you can do both. But if you put my hand on a Bible and said, tell me what you'd prefer to do, I would say post-production. Location sound, you always need location sound, but it's usually the grunt work, whereas post is a lot more fun.
No, I mean, I'm not in the sound stream, but my roommate is in sound, and I've actually been in this room multiple times to see an ADR assignment where you have to completely re-engineer the sound stuff. It's really, really fascinating stuff, and I see the timeline. So I also ask you another thing. If you're really passionate about post-sound stuff, how long does it take you on average to do a sound project, and how deep do you go into the wormhole of stuff you want to do?
It really depends. It sucks that I'm going to say it again, but it does depend on what you're going to do. If it's a 1-minute scene, generally you can get it out in a few hours. If you want to be really complex about it and edit a 5-minute scene and add sound effects, all that sort of thing, then it's going to take you probably a while, probably a couple days. But I think the good thing is that you do get a sense of what you want to do after watching it multiple times. You sort of get a feel for the scene and get an understanding of what you want to do creatively.
Another really fascinating part of sound that I love to death, because I can't do this, but I just find so cool, is Foley. How they create sound effects and all of that. Do you have any experience in Foley, and is that something you also want to touch in the future?
I mean, you touched on the exact thing. As us as sound artists are usually always going to be the most giddy about Foley. It's the most fun. You get to be a kid playing with things. You get to basically create your own world through these sounds. And with the sound course, you do get Foley experience. You will do projects on Foley. You'll figure it out. But generally, it's just figuring out footsteps, that sort of thing first. And Foley artistry is something that's going to be very fun to do for you. But it's just one aspect of sound that you will look forward to, but there's other things you need to do to get there.
No, 100%. By the way, it's really fascinating stuff. So I have one last question for you, and I really want to hear your viewpoint on this. Would you say all the experience second year right now, you doing sound, specializing stuff, how is that preparing you for third year? How do you think what you're learning now is preparing you for what's to come for core 2, portfolio? Just kind of curious.
I mean, one of the things is that I've already worked on a core film so far. It's not doing sound work in general at first is going to help you do stuff later on. So most of the future courses are helping you with post-production more than anything. Location sound is pretty much nailed within the first year, but sound usually has, I don't want to say a lot of work available, but you usually do find that it's not necessarily as competitive as directing, say, for example. But there are definitely opportunities in every field. Sound, to me, just has the best opportunities for me personally.
And I really love that. And also, what I love is that you just specialize and you know what you want to do, and that's really rare. And I'm glad in the second year you've come that. Well, Alistair, thank you so much. It was a really insightful interview. I learned a lot about sound, and I wish you success in BFTV.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. All right. Now I'll sit down. As you guys heard earlier, COVID definitely hit, so that was something. But no, I walked in this program. I was very excited. I love movies. I love storytelling, and I really wanted to apply that. And honestly, back where I was from, I didn't really. One thing I learned that filmmaking, it takes a village and it takes a people. And I didn't really have those people at first before I went to film school. But when I went to film school, I met all these wonderful people. I met people who really understood me, and I suddenly had a crew of people who really got me and stuff. And honestly, that's what really surprised me about film school. And that's why in the end, I still love my time here. Of course, there's hard times. Of course, there's moments I'm very stressed out. Very real realities of working in the industry. It's not all roses and sunshines and everything, but I, in the end, still love what I do, and I wouldn't take it back for the world. So I made a lot of connections with people. The brilliant thing with film school I find is that you're allowed to make mistakes, because in the real world, especially when money's on the line, that could have a bit more consequences. But yeah, I think in general my 4 years in BFTV has been very pleasant, and I wouldn't take it back for the world. So is that good? I gave my off-the-cuff response, but that's my experience at BFTV.
also have a This presentation is one of the things that I'll send with the follow-up email. So you have my contact information if you need it, because admittedly my last name is very long. I'm just going to begin with a land acknowledgement. Welcome, folks. We acknowledge the land for sustaining us and for providing us with the necessities of life. This territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty and the Two-Row Wampum Treaty, which emphasize the importance of joint stewardship, peace, and respectful relationships. As we reflect on land acknowledgements, let us remember that we are all stewards of the land and of each other. We recognize the land on which we gather has been and still is the traditional territory of several Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Métis, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Since time immemorial, numerous Indigenous nations and Indigenous peoples have lived and passed through this territory. Sheridan affirms it is our collective responsibility to honor the land as we honor and respect those who have gone before us, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. We are grateful for the opportunity to be learning, working, and thriving on the land. So I'm going to play for you a reel that shows some student work. The student work that you're seeing on the screens in the hallway as part of the live show today is more recent. It's actually films, a lot of films from this year and some from last year. So this work is none from this year. It's from the previous 2 or 3 years, but it gives you a sense of the kind of work that, that students do in this program.
It's not enough enough for a dead man. Not dead yet, mate. Camera is rolling. Why don't I take two? Brandon. She's getting straight. Camera's rolling. Call it. 10 Bravo, take 1. All right. Ready? And slate. Camera's rolling. C9 Alpha, take 2. Ready?
There we go. So again, I have a short presentation prepared. These are some of the things that we're going to cover today. So talk a bit about the program from a general sense. Look at the course load, especially the course load for first year. Talk a little bit about co-op or internship opportunities and about faculty experience and career opportunities for once students graduate. And I should add that all the photos that I've put into the presentation from today, they're all pretty recent. So I would say from the past 2 years. These are all students in action. So as you probably already know, the BFTV program is a 4-year honors degree program. It's relatively young. I think we launched in 2014. But we have a long history of teaching film and TV at Sheridan College that goes back to the early 1970s. And so there was a predecessor program. It was a diploma program called Media Arts. But the BFTV program has been running now for a number of years. It's a large program. We have 450 students spread across 4 years, which I think makes us the second largest program in the arts here at Sheridan College. And I should add that the Faculty of the Arts at the college is also pretty large overall. I think it's either the biggest or close to the biggest art school in Canada. In this program, we have 11 full-time faculty and usually around 25 part-time faculty. And it says here that our students produce more than 60 short films. That's 60 short films coming from the production classes in 3rd and 4th year. But we produce a lot more content than that because students are producing content in virtually every class, or at least every class that has a technical bent to it. And so there are literally hundreds of individual pieces of content that are being produced by students every year. In terms of the scope, the program has been designed so that students have a balance of both theory and hands-on learning. And so that's true of every semester because there is a mandatory course in every semester that's in theory. There's also a mandatory production course every semester. And then students get to pick electives on top of that, which I'll get into in just a second. And generally, the electives and the way that we do things here are organized the way that the industry does things. So, students are engaged in writing, pre-production, production, post-production, delivery, and the business side of things. And so that's represented in the kinds of electives that we offer, and also in our approach to production overall in the program. In terms of courses in first year, all the courses are nearly prescribed. So students don't choose their courses in first year, except for one exception, because we want to give students a strong foundation in every area. And so these are the courses that they take in the fall semester in first year. The Art of Cinema is a theory course. The Screen Story is it's a screenwriting course. And then we have Intro to Cinematography, Sound Recording, and Composition and Rhetoric is a breadth elective that's required of all degrees in the college. And then in the winter semester, the theory course is the Art of Documentary. Students also take Intro to Directing, Production Planning, Intro to Post, and then they get to pick a breadth elective. So breadth electives are mandated by the ministry, and students have to take one in every semester, and they're meant to, as the name implies, to broaden their education. And so they choose from a number of courses that are available in cultural studies or history or psychology. And there's also a pretty cool certificate in creativity that they can take by grouping together a number of those electives as well. Beyond first year, students get a lot of flexibility. And there is, with the theory courses, mainly a focus on Canadian film. There's also a digital interactive storytelling course. That's a course that I usually teach in second year, where they, again, broadening the scope beyond just strictly film. There's a television studio production class that's mandatory in both semesters in second year. And you're seeing a lot of our TV students in action today because they're covering today's event as a live event. And that's one of the streams that I had playing up on the screen. So you'll probably see them in action, especially if you go to our TV studio, D102, DB17. Those students today, they're part of a new elective that we launched this winter. It's a multicam live event. So this is actually an assignment for them today to cover today's event. We also do a lot of documentary production. The productions that students do at the beginning of their third year is documentary. And so the content that's playing as part of that live event today, there's a lot of our Core 1 documentaries that are being shown in that as well. And starting in second year, students get to focus on craft streams through program electives. If you sign up on the sign-up sheet, I'll be sending this presentation out to you, and it is PowerPoint is linked that goes into a lot more depth about what elective streams we offer here in the program, but I'll summarize them in a minute here. Incoming students are often curious about equipment, and so I thought I'd throw in a slide that at least for the camera geeks in the room might explain a bit about what we use. And for the most part, the program is based on the Canon C300 camera that you see on the right. So students start using that camera in their very first semester, and they continue to use that camera throughout the 4 years. But by fourth year, we do have an opportunity for students who are focusing on camera to use the ARRI Amira camera system that you see on the left, which is a professional camera system. I think we're fairly unique in Canada in terms of offering training with this kind of a camera system. If we're not the only college in Canada, or the only college or university in Canada teaching it, we're definitely in a select group. And that's what they're using next door if you go to see the demo in B122. Incoming students also often have questions about laptops. And so our program is considered a mobile program starting in second year. So you don't necessarily have to buy a laptop to come with in first year, but it is expected at the start of second year. And we do have a spec sheet. I've got a copy of the current one over on the table over there if you want to have a look. That's a screen capture of part of it on the right there. And so every year we publish an updated spec. The reason we're not mobile until the beginning of second year One of the reasons is that we believe that if you buy a computer at the beginning of second year, it won't be obsolete by the time you graduate in fourth year, because 3 years seems like enough time to be able to use a laptop. But we also have a lot of labs that have computers. So in first year, generally, you should be able to finish the assignments with the computers that we have on site. But starting in second year, when you're focusing a lot more on productions, it is advantageous to be able to have your own computer, depending again on which electives you pick. Now you're all here in person today, so you're hopefully getting a chance to visit a lot of our rooms. We do have an established walking tour. We have handouts for it, and there's also BFTV tour guides. They're holding up the slates. There'll probably be some out front when we finish. But I also do have a kind of a photographic walking tour online that you can get to through this presentation, and also some 360 videos that explain a bit about our studio space. So if you want to have a look later, refresh your memory about what we have, some of these videos might be useful. Now we have 9 areas of specialization for our electives. They're listed here. So media and cinema studies, writing, directing, cinematography, editing, sound, producing, digital production design, and visual effects. Normally students, well, for sure they try and focus on one of them, but there is time for them to focus on 2 if they want. So, it's up to individual students to decide what their areas of interest are. And so a particular student might decide to focus on writing and directing, and they take electives mainly from those 2. There is a fair amount of flexibility. Students in fourth year definitely have the ability to loop back and take introductory electives if they want. So you could, if you decide in fourth year that I really want to take an introductory sound elective, you can loop back and take that in fourth year. And I think that's a fairly unique design in terms of film programs in Canada. In terms of the faculty, I would say that most is probably a better adjective, are active film and television professionals. Maybe writers, directors, cinematographers, editors, and sound mixers. And so the other faculty that are giving demos in the other rooms today, they're definitely available if you want to ask questions about their experience or what they teach. We also have active researchers and published authors within our faculty, filmmakers with exposure in festivals worldwide, as it says, and award-winning craftspeople and filmmakers. A little bit about why it's great to be a student here. And it's one thing for me to say it, but best you talk to the students who are here today. We have 30 student volunteers here today. They're all active students currently in the program across all 4 years. And so I encourage you to ask them questions about why, what their experience is like. But from my point of view, I think that we have a really tight peer network. And that often extends after graduation. So we had an alumni event about a month ago where a number of our grads from last year came back to talk about their experience with a project. And it was really great to see how connected they still are, that those bonds that they formed while they were students here are serving them well out in the professional world, and they're still working together. I think that's not unusual to see these kinds of things last for years after people graduate, or maybe forever. Interdisciplinary learning, as it says here, both official and unofficial. And so officially, we have some collaborations. We have one in third year where we get the composers. So there is a program here in composing for film and screen. And if you go to HBO4, you'll probably meet the coordinator of that program. But in third year, we team up the composers with our film students and to put together music for the films we're doing. And those collaborations often last into fourth year. So if you're liking some of the music you hear in some of the films when you're watching this content, some of it is being created by students who are in that scoring program. So that's an official interdisciplinary learning. There's also some unofficial stuff that happens, and definitely we encourage, because again, there are so many interesting programs at the college, and it's great to have students working together across those programs. I've already talked about the industry-based faculty. We also have faculty with doctorates who are teaching in the theory courses. Expectation and ability to change and adapt. Well, that's a mouthful. That same group of alumni that we had come back about a month ago, that was the group that really had a lot of their experience happen here through the heart of the pandemic. And it was interesting to hear them talk about how they think it made them more resilient as filmmakers and creators. I should add that we never stopped shooting films here through all those months. We figured out ways to do it, and I think we're unique in that respect. I think a lot of other film schools in Canada were not able to do it, but we, mainly because of Desiree's hard work, to be honest, managed to figure out ways to do it that were safe. And so yeah, listening to those students talk about how those experiences, figuring out how to do stuff when they had limited access to spaces and equipment was really interesting. We have a very big alumni representation in industry. So I mentioned that BFTV itself is a young program, but there have been film and TV grads coming out of Sheridan since the early 1970s. In fact, Desiree is one, and so am I. We're grads from way back. So there are so many alumni in the industry in Canada. I'm going to put up some slides in a minute that talk about a few examples. In terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion, we aim to be a welcoming, inclusive, and supportive learning environment in all of our courses all the time. That's what we're aspiring to be. We really encourage diverse storytelling, and I teach in the third year production course, the one that does documentaries at the start of third year. And the faculty that teach in that course, I can tell you, we're really proud of the diverse set of films that we create. And you'll see a few of them go by in that streaming show that we're doing today. There's a lot of groups on campus that speak to this as well. So SWIFT is one, Sheridan Women in Film and TV, which is a club that is centered in BFTV, really. And then SSU stands for the Sheridan Student Union. And so there are a number of groups that kind of spring out of that, including SWIFT as a club that's part of the SSU as well. There's also the FAD EDI Task Force. So FAD is our faculty, the Faculty of Animation, Arts, and Design. So there's a very active EDI task force. And there's also the Center for Indigenous Learning. You might have walked by their office when you came in today because they're right beside the front door. And also the Sheridan Black Students Association, which again is part of the SSU. Now, in terms of career opportunities, it's really hard to speak to this because there are so many interests represented by students in the program, and when they graduate, it really depends upon what an individual's aspirations are and what they want to do. You can see some examples here, and we've tried to list both entry level and some more aspirational career paths. You know, at the entry level, you know, being a PA can really kind of give you the springboard to move on to other things in the industry. But you know, also camera trainees and boom operators and whatnot. And then more aspirationally, we definitely have students in the program who aspire to be, you know, directors or editors or in the camera department. And I'm going to single out the students in the room. Do you guys know what you want to do? Jessica, do you know? Or?
Probably like old school, like writer room / director.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Anna?
I want to direct and write.
Okay, very cool. Anastasia?
I'm going more post-production, editing.
Yeah, so you know, already you're seeing kind of there's a wide variance in interest. So it really depends upon what you want to do. And because this is a degree level program, we think we're preparing leaders in the industry versus maybe some other programs that you might encounter. Now, I know this slide is really busy, but this is my masterpiece. I really wanted to demonstrate, you know, the success of our students in at least a couple of areas, and this one I can actually measure. So the top part of this slide, this is the Canadian Society of Cinematographers. Every year they sponsor a Student Cinematography Award. So Sheridan, in the past 10 years, has been nominated 13 times for this award, which is more than 3 times the number of the next closest school in Canada. So we dominate this award, to put it bluntly. And then at the bottom, this is the Canadian Cinema Editors. Again, the Student Merit Award. It's a little bit different than the Cinematography Award because they give multiple winners each year. But we've had 19 winners in the last 10 years, which, as you can see, is the same as the combined total of the next 3 schools. So even more dominant when it comes to editing. These are 2 that I can sort of measure. It's harder to measure other disciplines because there aren't similar directing or producing awards in Canada. But we're really proud of this. Another achievement, this is Bernice Chu, one of our sound students, or she's graduated now, but she was one of our sound students. And she was the first Canadian student to be nominated for the Cinema Audio Award. So this is a group out of the US. And so we're, again, exceptionally proud of her achievement with that. Our films do really well, too, our student films. And so they screen at festivals around the world and have won lots of awards. And again, with Desiree's encouragement, a lot of our docs have been licensed by the CBC over the last few years. So nearly every year a doc gets licensed, at least one. And on the right, that screen grab, which you can't really read, but you can see a lot of laurels. That was a screen grab off the webpage for one of our current documentaries, one produced last year. This list goes on a lot further. This is maybe half of the festivals they've been in. Hugely successful documentary. And then I mentioned about graduates. So because we have a long history that goes back to the early 1970s, these grads admittedly are from the earlier predecessor program called Media Arts. But you can see how successful these folks have been. Craig Hennigan, that's who's represented here, He has won multiple Emmys. He's been nominated for an Oscar for sound design. We had him in as a guest speaker in the fall, and it was really fantastic to hear him talk about how he got his start here at Sheridan College. And if you've been down to BB10 already, one of our sound studios, he talked a lot about that room and how much time he spent there. If you go on a tour after this and you get down to BB10, just keep in mind that the guy who invented all those cool sounds for Stranger Things, that's where he started his career. Wendy Hallam Martin, also a media arts grad from 1988, has also won an Emmy, and in this case for The Handmaid's Tale. But you can see she's won a number of other awards as well. Incredibly successful editor. And Jill Purdy, who's also in the sound area, she's a sound editor, again, graduating in the 90s from media arts, and has won many awards and been nominated for a couple of Primetime Emmys, again, for Stranger Things as one of her achievements, you can see over there on the right. Okay, so hopefully you've understood, because I've tried to speak really fast to allow us time for questions. That's my contact information again. I'm, again, the main program coordinator, one of the three. Desiree's another one, and Kathleen Cummins is our third coordinator. I know there must be questions, so we have enough time. It's 12:23, so you still have enough time to get to your next session at 12:30 if you're trying to get there. Who's got a question? Anybody? No pressure. If so, yeah. Yeah. I think with any of our courses, to me, there's two factors. One is the quality of the faculty teaching in that stream. So if you go next door to B122, you're going to meet at least two of the camera faculty over there. And so Carolyn, who's over there, she's incredibly active in IATSE, one of the camera unions. And she's been a professional in the camera department for decades. So it's partly the quality of the teachers, and then also the quality of the equipment. I think, and I don't have the facts to support this, but my gut belief is that we're the best supplied film school in the country. I don't think that other film schools have the gear that we have. And again, if you've been to other open houses, maybe you can let me know if you've seen things that they have that we don't. But in terms of our camera equipment, so using the professional ARRI camera bodies, and also the lighting equipment, I was down in the equipment room when one of our shows was going out the other day, and I was like, we have that? It literally was a light this big. I can't even imagine how bright that thing is. Anyway, we're really well equipped. So I think it's two factors, the quality of teaching and also the gear. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. So there are challenges with cross-program collaborations because it needs to be woven into the fabric of the curriculum of both programs. There's definitely a focus in trying to do more of that in the future. I mentioned the one with the scoring students already. The other ones that come immediately in mind is acting. So I know one of our directing courses this current semester, they've been working with students, I think, from 2 or 3 different acting programs at the college for their assignments. And then the other one that also comes immediately to mind is working with the makeup students. So I'm not sure if you've gone past that hallway yet, but we have a special effects makeup program here at the college that is incredible. And the work they do, well, if you don't like horror films, it can be a little freaky, but that's not all they do. And so we're working on having some active collaborations with them as well. Those are the official ones. The unofficial ones, and I'm not sure if any of your productions this year have had any collaborations, but musical theater, sometimes we've done at least 1 or 2 musicals in recent years with musical theater students. When I was a student, which was a long time ago, for one of the student films that I was involved in, we actually commissioned an original piece of glass from the glass studio here as a prop. So, taking advantage of the unique programs here at the college is an interesting thing to try and do. Yeah. Yeah.
Co-op.
Yes.
I believe from what I'm reading, it is part of the 4-year.
Yes.
Is that something that you help the kids find, or are they in charge of finding their own co-op? And is it a guaranteed, or is there so bad society didn't get it? You needed to graduate.
You need to graduate, yeah, and it's more than 400 hours, so it's a significant number of hours. It's actually mandated by the ministry. So they require that it's part of the program, and they mandate the number of hours as well. So we have a prep class that happens at the beginning of 3rd year, where one of the representatives from the co-op office, he teaches that class and prepares the students in terms of resumes and other guidelines about professional practice. And then, well, it might be better if one of you speak to it. Yeah.
So there's a website that we do which is called Sheridan, which has listings that almost every of all these workshops that are available. So there's lots of things to apply for, and just support that to apply. So you can guarantee your place.
So co-op happens over the summer rather than affecting the program schedule?
Yeah, between third and fourth year. Yeah.
So there's plenty of different opportunities there, which is really great. But it is like student responsibility to get them.
And did you were okay to get it? Like everybody, was able to get it?
It's been really accessible on Sheridan here.
I was just thinking with the pandemic, it might have had confusing years.
It was, I'm gonna be honest, it was hard.
Yeah.
And so Jessica, I know you're fourth year, right?
Yeah, basically what I did is I took the last year, but there weren't a lot of precedent, so you are able, it's not recommended, but you can defer it. But yeah, the co-op office is still really good with helping out. You also encourage to outsource like email production companies and stuff themselves as well.
And then this silly question, is this co-op? No.
It's a mix.
Oh, really?
Some are paid positions and some aren't. I think if we had our way, they'd all be paid because nobody should have to work for free. Right. But we can't control the industry, and there has been a tradition, and unfortunately in the film industry, of unpaid internships. But many of them are paid.
So it's not.
No, it's not a silly question at all. No. We, as much as possible, we try and encourage the students to strategically find their own placements because only the student can know what their aspirations are when they graduate. And the placement is a springboard potentially to when you graduate. Like you make contacts, hopefully, and you get experience that are going to help you when you finish fourth year.
I like the fact that you mentioned there's a website because honestly, if I Google, where's the best place to get a haircut, I'm only, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, we don't know this industry, so we don't know. Besides Cable 14, that's all I can think of. Right? Like, I have no list of where.
There's definitely guidance, and both from the co-op office with the website we talked about, but also from faculty. So, like for example, if you wanted to try and get an internship in editing, it's beneficial to talk to the editing faculty and help them get you to understand what the landscape is like, what companies are out there, what companies may have hired co-op students in the past. Yeah.
And now one more question, push the button a little bit.
Oh, go ahead.
I've met people who told us that this industry doesn't need school, that you jump right into the field.
Right.
And it's interesting because we're seeing this offered at universities, like for Guelph, we've seen this offered here at Sheridan and Mohawk. But then people we've met in the industry are saying you don't need school. I don't believe that. I just was wondering if you have an opinion on that.
My personal opinion is you need school.
You need a paper.
But admittedly, like there are people who are able to not do that. The industry in the Toronto area has been exceptionally busy in the last few years, and especially in certain areas. But
You need to learn all this stuff.
yeah, like having 4 years to actually let yourself develop, and like we see such a huge change from students coming in first year to when they leave in fourth year. They've matured as people, they've matured professionally, and especially if you're coming straight out of high school, I think that would be a massive jump to try and go straight into industry. It would be, I think, overwhelming for most people.
Yeah, I missed grade 13. Can't even imagine.
Yeah, and then beyond that, I think there are benefits to getting a degree. You don't necessarily know what you're going to do with the rest of your life, and you may come to a point where you regret not having a degree. And like I can speak from a personal point of view, I could not be teaching unless I had not only a bachelor's but also a master's degree as well. And so the program gives you a path to doing a master's if you want. Yeah. Yes.
So for the co-op, I have a question.
Sure.
So I know the camera union offers the sort of like camera trainee program for a year, which you have to apply for in January.
Yep.
If you took that as your co-op, would that be co-op, or would it have to be something less freelance and more like I'm working with some stuff?
So I guess there's a couple answers there. You don't have to get all your hours with one job. And Hannah, I think you were speaking to that, right? You got half your hours with one thing you've locked up and you're trying to get the rest of your hours with something else. Yeah, so like cameras kind of like that, where you may not get all your hours on one production, where you may try and patch together a few things. I don't think you can really, the camera trainee, so I'm not, Carolyn, who's next door, she's an expert because she taught that course, IATSE's course, trainee course. She taught it for many, many years. So you can ask her for more specifics. And we do deliver that course still here at the college, by the way. I think, you know, if part of that training program is they get you onto set for X number of hours, it might. Yeah, it might. And that would be one that I would defer to one of the co-op people to answer. So William Young, he's here today. He's the gentleman who teaches our co-op class. I think he said he's in the Commons area, so you could definitely try and track him down. That's the kind of question he could answer. Yeah. And, sure. So yeah, it's between the 3rd and 4th year in the summertime that the internships happen. And we sometimes have students who go further afield for their internships. They don't have to do them in Toronto, that's for sure. So you could try and do it in Vancouver or someplace if you have connections there. I don't know about recently, but there have definitely been students in the past who've done international co-ops as well. During the pandemic, for some of our students, that became necessary because they were international students to begin with. And for example, we had students, a bunch of students in Shanghai. And so they were taking courses remotely and doing their internships in Shanghai.
So
Yeah.
wondering is that the summertime is a personal looking for it, or just will give you the opportunity to try?
Well, it's mandatory, so you have to, for one thing, and it's a combination of both. So we do have the jobs board where the students can look at posted positions. And so those are usually companies that approach us and say, we want an intern, and those positions get posted on the board. We also encourage the students to act on their own and to reach out to companies that may be more connected with what they want to do ultimately when they graduate. There should be some of those on the job board as well, but being kind of self-motivated, we think there's a big advantage to that too. Okay, yeah. Yes?
Is the part of the program covering live television versus recorded editing?
Yes, yes. So the students that you see today, and actually let me just pull it up on the screen. We can see what's happening right now. It's me. I am the live show right now. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to switch off that so we don't get this weird thing happening. Those students, that's an assignment for them today. We have a new course that we launched this winter that's a multicam live event course. And so they're covering the event today. They also covered a sports event a few weeks ago. So those have been the two major assignments for this semester. And you know, next year, we'll see if they cover this again event or not, or if they do some other event. So we definitely do teach that. We also have 2 mandatory TV courses that students take in second year. And as part of that, they do learn how to do things live. So if you go for the tour and go to D102, you'll see them actually switching the show live there. Yeah, yeah. And we do have 2 TV studios on campus right now. We have the D102, and you may also want to peek in on the journalism studio where I think they're all.
Wasn't that all wonderful? Well, you know what? You know what's on the top of my mind? How does a film like Avatar made? You know, no, honest question. Let's really talk about this. Well, you know what? Thankfully, we have a brand spanking new virtual production studio and classroom, and they're going to do a live demonstration. You know what? How to do motion capture, how to not? Let's find out. I'm really excited.
Zoe, can you tell us what we're doing here today? Absolutely. So as I'm sure you can see, I got a funky little contraption on right now, and this is our motion capture suit. So I've got a bunch of different straps on me, and attached to these straps are these little orange boxes. Once I put these boxes on, stand in front of our little camera screen there, calibrate the system, I am now able to control the wizard and become the wonderful wizard of virtual production. So that means that whenever I move, all these trackers help translate it to the screen there. And then we have the little wizard moving around as well.
Amazing. So how would this be used in BFTV or in like the real life film scenario?
So this is a super, super cool and futuristic alternative to traditional computer animation because it takes a fraction of the time. Because as you can see on the television screen, as I move around, the wizard moves around as well, which means that in theory and in practice, we could animate a scene in real time. I could be moving around and we record as I'm doing it. And rather than having to animate and take a lot of time to do that, we can do it almost immediately, which is super, super cool. And so we can use that for film and television, just different animated things, or we can use it for video games. And video games is where it's been used a lot so far.
Oh, wow, amazing. So basically, it's kind of like in, say, like The Hobbit when they animate Smaug. It's kind of like that?
I would say so, yeah. It's similar
Yeah.
too. Without knowing too many of the ins and outs, it's probably a similar.
Wow, amazing. Anyway, so we're going to go over here now with Nicholas. We're going to look at some maple syrup over here. Now, Nicholas, what is this?
Well, this is a demonstration of in-camera visual effects. So again, we're using gaming engines, Unreal Engine, to render a 3D scene on the TV screen that you see behind me. And in this case, we're looking at more photorealistic scenes. So on the previous demonstration you saw, it was more of a cartoon looking set. In this case, we're trying to go for photoreal. So the background that you've got on the screen is a 3D background. It's not a photograph or a video file. It's actually being rendered in real time in 3D. And what we're able to do is actually attach the camera, the physical camera, to the 3D set. So when I move this camera in real life, you'll see that the 3D environment on the screen behind me moves to adjust for the perspective of this real camera. And in this case, we're just doing an advertisement for maple syrup. But you know, in the industry, this might be used on much larger shows, things like The Mandalorian, Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Strange New World, both of which are filmed here in Toronto, are using this technology but on a much larger scale. So they would have a 10,000 square foot studio with a 120-foot LED wall that surrounds the subjects so that they can do this kind of thing in real time. Basically it allows us to do more complex things in real time than having to do, say, green screen or go to complex locations.
Wow, that is really interesting. And you're doing something like that, I know, in BFTV right now for a class, virtual production in class. But isn't it becoming a like advanced like position, kind of advanced course,
That's right.
advanced program?
Yeah, so we have Intro to Virtual Production in the Bachelor of Film and Television program. I teach that class in 4th year. And then we're also relaunching our Advanced Television and Film program, which is going to be focused in virtual production. So it's a 1-year certificate program. So students have to have a degree or diploma to enter into that program, or some career experience to enter into that program. And it's really going to be focused on virtual production. So what you would learn in one course in BFTV, imagine that stretched out with more detail over an 8-month period for ATVF.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. What would you say, like, give us a little bit of details of the advanced course, per se.
Yeah, so we start by kind of getting folks up to speed on filmmaking techniques and the lingo of the film industry. So we're expecting that we'll have people from film, people from game design, people from animation coming together into this program. So we're having conversations about how they can all start to speak the same language. So that's the first kind of boot camp week. And then we start learning Unreal Engine, we start learning the filmmaking process for virtual production, the different types of virtual production, which we've seen, you know, live animation, and we've seen the ICV effects, so those are parts of it. And then in the second semester, we really get into doing major production in virtual production.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So with the, I know I'm kind of like going back now, so intro in BFTV, it's a 4th year course, if I'm correct, and so what do you do in that?
So I kind of consider it like a tasting menu, if you will. It's kind of a way to touch all the different things virtual production. So we really do start with learning a little bit about the history of visual effects and how virtual production plays into that. Then we go into learning Unreal Engine and how to use that as a tool, and we start kind of from the ground up learning how to build a 3D environment, 3D landscape, how we get assets to do that. And then we'll do a very similar assignment to what you're seeing behind me here, where we'll do a short product advertisement. Students will build the environment, they'll bring in a product, they'll set up the table, and they'll do a short 30-second ad for that. And then we'll explore things like motion capture. We'll explore things like it's called simulcam, where you're doing live keying on a green screen. So we'll do explore those types of virtual production techniques as well.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, I want to just see, like, I don't know if you guys can see, but like, let's go to the little like screen right now. Nicholas, do you want to do a demonstration of that, please?
So I can start with the make insert bottle occluded with this log here. You can then do a quick dolly in, and you'll see that the background is changing as I move the position of the camera.
It's amazing. It looks like it actually is in like the forest and everything. I love that.
So what do you guys all think? That's pretty cool, huh? The BFTV program promotes and strives for excellence, and all the students, and I think it's been shown very well so far. Now let's keep going with Core Production 2 production. Drink the Noise from Katie Gaskin, the director of photography on this project. As DOP, Katie has worked closely with the director, and to make sure that the project doesn't only look beautiful, but to make sure that the final product looks exactly like the director has envisioned in their head. So let's hear a bit more about that process. Okay, about what? I don't know about what you guys, but that project sounds like, I'm still talking? All right, hope you guys are having a great time. Open house is good. BFTV is great. Please enroll. A lot of stuff. I hope you guys found everything fascinating, really cool. Running the technical difficulties. We're making it entertaining for everybody. I don't know what else to talk about. Sheridan rules.
It's like a kid's TV show gone wrong. So we've got like a puppet named Max, and then the lead Jojo, and Max invites someone to this like birthday party that Jojo doesn't know, and then everything starts going a bit awry. Beginning style was like a TV show, kids TV show, so it was very like standard, but it was like kind of tricky because we had to mimic the look of a kids' TV show.
That's great.
And then figure out how to progressively break that to make it like kind of creepy and weird. So then by the end, it's like completely different style of shots. But it was a fun progress to kind of copy a style and then subtly start breaking it and then have it just entirely like broken and different at the end. Eden played the puppet, and he just made the set very like lighthearted. Whenever anyone was stressed, he would just like speak through the puppet, and it was just like very entertaining, and it just like would lighten the mood. I made a lot of progress. I didn't know like anything coming in here, and there were a lot of people who did, and I was like very taken aback, and like it made me stressed because I was like, oh God, I'm supposed to like know a lot more than I do. But you don't need to. Like you'll learn everything, and just like by working on stuff, like you'll progressively just get better. So like now I feel like I have a much better handle on things, and I have like people around me as well that are like good, and they help out, and just yeah, I don't know. You learn things. You don't need to worry if you're not at a point where you feel like you know everything, and you won't still be at a point where you know everything because you'll just kind of keep learning new things. I would like to keep working in camera. I do like editing as well, but maybe more of a side gig. But I really like camera, and I think that's something I'd like to keep doing because it's fun. Women in camera, join camera, please. We need more.
Did that look amazing? Well, I'm actually very excited to see what Katie's cooking. I can't wait to see it. Now, from a DOP about Core 2, we've seen some projects as well, but we haven't heard from Core 2 director yet. Well, what works out really well then, because next we have Weldon Hovey coming in here to talk about Apartment 17. He pitched the project at the beginning of the year, and he immediately had all the students in the year excited to work with him. While creating the idea, he also had to work closely with the cast and the crew to make sure everything looked as realistic as possible while still sticking to his idea. Let's see how his experience has been so far.
My name is Weldon Hovey. I'm the writer and director and visual effects artist of Apartment 17. The film kind of follows a washed-up author set in 1960s New York, and it's about him kind of setting out to reclaim his fame through a gripping story in the apartment next door as he learns about the inner workings of the mafia and some secrets that are going on. And this is a crime sort of noir film as well. Being the writer and director, I had a very clear idea and vision while I was writing. I was kind of thinking of having that just one actor, one location, fairly simplistic to shoot, something realistic we could do in the time span with the gear and crew we have. But also, you know, trying to push myself a little bit by making it very sound focused because there isn't a lot of on-screen dialogue. It's all told off-screen through conversations he hears next door. It was definitely a challenge because it's a big change of pace because we didn't film any dialogue scenes. It was very dependent on the actor's body language and his expressions, which is something that's often overlooked as people more so focus on the vocal delivery rather than what the actor looks like on screen. I felt it was just a new challenge entirely. I think it took the same amount of time as it would have been if it was like more dialogue driven, but it was definitely more interesting to describe the film to the actor while we were doing casting, letting them know that there isn't actually any lines for them. It's all about your portrayal of this character online. So it's really diving deep into the script, like who this character is, their backstory, their emotions during every scene is really, really important to lock down because it's not like he can say how he's feeling, he has to strictly just show it. And I thought that was a really fun challenge to do, especially like while writing. So my favorite part about working on this film would definitely be the production. It was a nice change of pace to be on set and be on a location. As we decided not to shoot in studio, we went on location, a loft in downtown Toronto. That was a lot of fun to get a really talented crew out there. We had lots of gear, lots of cameras, and lots of people working around to kind of make this vision complete. And I think it turned out really well visually, and I'm excited to keep developing it in the edit. I would definitely say for future filmmakers to keep it fairly simplistic and really focus on the essence of your story, like what are you trying to tell, and try to figure out the minimal way to tell it, and then you can kind of add from there. I think getting sort of the basis of the story is really important because sometimes you get overlooked. You're in film school, you have all this fancy gear, you want to use these big sets, but I think the story is the most important. So really focus on that before you jump the gun. There's been a lot of progress, especially after this film. This one film is definitely the biggest project I've worked on, and especially coming from first year, especially during COVID, we were doing a lot of stuff at home. We were using our own handheld phones and our own personal DSLRs. So to go from that to a large crew of about 20, 25 people on set using professional equipment was a big change. I've learned a lot about all the different roles, all the importance of lighting, the importance of blocking, and that's definitely something I've learned along the way at Sheridan. Yeah, so after graduating, I definitely do want to pursue a career in writing, directing, first assistant directing, potentially producing. Staying in Toronto and kind of close to that like central hub of Canadian filmmakers is really important, and I think with the ever-growing scene in Toronto, I think there's going to be a lot of work. And with virtual production studios starting to come into the mainstream, I think it'll be really exciting because, you know, more indie filmmakers and low-budget filmmakers will have access to locations that they've never had before, and I think that'll really change the game.
Got Johnny, buddy, you're killing me here. I don't need the press telling me you're a one-hit wonder. I need at least 90 pages.
The New York Police Department has issued a statement asking citizens to be on the lookout for any suspicious activity in their neighborhoods.
What they're saying, Bruno. Cops are following every lead they can get their muddy paws on. Well, I need you to send a message. There's someone else here.
How ambitious did that look for a Core 2 film? Honestly, like, round of applause, that looked awesome. Now, wow, after talking about that, I am absolutely perched. Thirsty, even. Oh, speaking of thirst, Pamela Tonge is here to talk about the portfolio project. Let's take it up to her.
My name is Pamela Tonge. I am the director of Thirst, which is a short film for portfolio. I would say the genre of Thirst would probably be like a gothic horror or even gothic romance. Basically, it is about a woman who is basically in love with this other woman, and it turns out she's a vampire, and she has to come to terms with that and figure out whether or not she wants to stay, basically. During like directing and all that stuff, during like production and pre-production, I kind of focused more on like a lot of aesthetic stuff, as well as like I was in the writer's room a lot. I was kind of like supervising. I let the writers do a lot of the stuff, but whenever I felt like they were going off the full vision, it was kind of a, hey, how about we do this? How about we do that? But after like the script was done and it was like locked for the script, I usually focused more on like the aesthetics, like what lighting we wanted, like what the costumes would look like, what the design of the makeup would be for the vampire, just a bunch of like more aesthetic stuff. And like I literally hyped myself up for production day because I was like, this is going to be interesting. This is my first time really directing like a short, so it was really interesting. During production, definitely it was a bit haywire at first, a little crazy, but we really banded together and got a lot done. I have like an editor's eye, so like during production I am focusing on cuts and how mentally I would put it together. And it's kind of like a big, in a way, I don't know if it would be a culture shock, but it's kind of a big like shock when you see someone else's mental image of what the things are, like how the scenes will go, and see that on paper, and you're like, okay, I like this, but like let's try it this way. Really enjoyed like talking to the actors and like getting them in the zone of what they should be feeling, and well, not what they should be feeling, but like what like the moment is about, like oh, you just found out your girlfriend basically is a vampire. How do you react to that? Like, are you, like, what are you feeling right now? And like getting that emotion out is really cool. I also enjoyed costuming because I also did the costumes for my film. And so, I don't know, I found it really fun just to like get, like, we got a really fancy robe for the vampire and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I think definitely, like, as a director, you need to understand that, like, if you don't know what you're doing, tell them. Like, it's fine. Like, honestly, I think people respect you more if you tell them, hey, I don't understand this. Can you help me? Because I think that it gives you kind of, like, they feel more open into telling you things because you are open with them. And like, I felt like that helped people come towards me with like ideas and suggestions. I was very like, just be open and like try to get along with your crew and like try to include people. Like, definitely sticking to your guns, but also listening to other people, definitely. But yeah, coming from that anxious, like, teenager basically to like who I am now is like the insane. Like, it's not that you don't feel comfortable, but you feel a little uncomfortable. Like, you're always on your feet being like challenged as a director. And I think that that's your calling. And he's always talking to me about, he's like, you know, find your people. And he's like, you found your people. And it was a big moment. He cried. I was like, oh God, now you're making me cry. But I would love to direct again, and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed being in that role. So I would hope to direct again. So that's kind of where I want to go in the future.
I'll get started in just a couple of minutes, but I'm curious, how many of you have already been on a tour today? Okay, one family, or two families maybe. So if you haven't been on a tour yet, there are at least a couple different kinds of tours that you can go on today. There's one that's specific to film, and you'll know our tour guides because they're holding up movie slates. And there should be hopefully 2 or 3 of them out in front once we finish our talk. And then there also is more general tours that you can take as well today. Did you? Yeah. It's not too late. Our rooms are going to be open until 2 o'clock, so there'll still be at least probably at least 25 minutes after we're done chatting in here. We're good to go? Oh. And there'll be a couple of tour guides at least when we're done? Yes. Okay, awesome. Yeah. All right, so we can close the doors and we'll give it a go here. So welcome. Thanks for coming out on such a poor weather day. I imagine that's, I think open house is generally a lot busier than this. I'm pretty sure it's the weather that's why things are a little bit less busy today, which is good for you because it means that you don't have as much, the big crowds aren't in all the rooms. So you're able to get in and actually see the demos today, which is great. My name is Randall. I'm the program coordinator for the Bachelor of Film and TV program. Our program is a little bit unique in that we actually have 3 coordinators. So I'm the generic coordinator. Desiree over there is the production coordinator, and Kathleen Cummins is our curriculum coordinator. She's not here today, but she's definitely available to answer questions if there are any follow-up questions about curriculum. So I've got a slide deck that I think it has about 20 or 25 slides in. I'm going to try and get through it in about 20 or 25 minutes, so there's still time for questions. And then if you want to do a tour, there'll still be time for that. I'm just going to begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land for sustaining us and for providing us with the necessities of life. This territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty and the 2-Row Wampum Treaty. which emphasize the importance of joint stewardship, peace, and respectful relationships. As we reflect on land acknowledgements, let us remember that we are all stewards of the land and of each other. We recognize the land on which we gather has been and still is the traditional territory of several indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Métis, Mississaugas, the Credit First Nations. Since time immemorial, numerous indigenous nations and indigenous peoples have lived and passed through this territory. Sheridan affirms that it is our collective responsibility to honor the land as we honor and respect those who have gone before us, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. We are grateful to the opportunity to be learning, working, and thriving on this land. Apologize, third time through this today, and I'm losing my voice. I'll try and keep going here. So I do have a reel to play for you. It's a collection of student work, and you are seeing other student work on the monitors outside as part of our live show today. The stuff on the other monitors, a lot of that is from films that are being produced this year. What I'm going to show you is not from this year, it's from maybe the previous 2 or 3 years, but you'll get a sense of the kind of work that our students do in the program.
Where do you think you're going? I'm getting a tattoo.
It's not enough life for a dead man. Not dead yet, mate. Camera is rolling. Ready? She's singing scream. Camera's rolling. Call it. Call it. Ready?
Next place.
Camera's rolling.
C9 Alpha, take 2.
Ready? Don't you want to see me flex my pecs?
So again, those are examples of work from previous years, and you'll see more on the displays in the hallway if I can just go to advance now. There we go. Okay, so today's chat, we're going to talk a bit about the program in a general way to start. We'll talk about the course load, especially in first year, a little bit about co-op or internship opportunities and faculty experience, and also a bit about career opportunities for once the students graduate. And I'll add that all the photos that are in the deck, in the slide deck today, they're all fairly recent photos from students working in the last couple of years. So BFTV is a 4-year honors degree program. It's a relatively young program. We launched in 2014, but we have a long history of teaching film and TV here at Sheridan College that started in the early 1970s. So there was a predecessor diploma program called Media Arts, but we're now a degree program, and we've been a degree program for a number of years. We're a large program, 450 students spread across the 4 years, and we're, I think, the second largest program in the Faculty of Animation Arts and Design. Our faculty by itself, I think, represents the largest film school, not the largest film school, the largest art school in Canada, or close to it. So we're a large program in a large art school. We have 11 full-time faculty and 25 part-time faculty, and annually our students produce more than 60 short films, but that's a bit not representative because they actually produce a lot more work than that. Almost all of our technical classes are producing content. So in fact, there are hundreds of bits of content that are produced every year, but 60 that we officially recognize as productions. In terms of the program scope, it's meant to be a blend of theory and hands-on learning. And so that's represented in the program map, where in every single semester, there is one mandatory theory class and one mandatory production class. And then in addition to that, students can pick program electives and also a breadth elective. I'll get into that a bit more in a second in terms of the structure for the electives. But we really try and focus on the way that production happens in industry. So, writing, pre-production, production, post-production, delivery, and business. That's represented, or these things are represented in the electives that we offer, and also in our approach to the production classes. In the very first semester, so the first fall semester, there are 5 courses. In fact, there are 5 courses in most semesters, except for semesters 5, 6, and 7, when there are 4. 15 credits per semester. And so in that first fall, the theory course is the art of cinema. The screen story is a screenwriting course. Intro to cinematography, sound recording, and composition rhetoric. Composition and rhetoric is a breadth elective. It's a mandatory breadth elective in all the degree programs. In the winter semester, the theory course is the art of documentary. And then there's also the introduction to directing, production planning, intro to post-production, and a breadth elective that students get to pick. So breadth electives are mandated by the ministry, and there's one in each semester. And so the students get to pick a course from a number of different courses, including courses related to history, psychology, cultural studies. There's also a special certificate in creativity they can get if they get a number of electives that are kind of prescribed. After first year, there is a lot more flexibility about what students can pick. And with the theory courses, there's definitely a focus on Canadian film. There's also a course in digital interactive storytelling. In fact, I teach that course in second year. And then there are TV studio production classes. Those are the production classes in second year. And the students you may have seen running around today with the TV camera, those are students taking a multicam live event elective that's kind of sprung out of the mandatory TV courses. It's a brand new course that we're offering for the first time this winter. Documentary production. Students produce documentaries at the beginning of their third year. And in fact, we do usually more than 30 docs per year in third year. And starting in second year, students get to pick program electives and can focus on craft streams. And I do have a list of the streams that I'll put up in just a second. There's also a PowerPoint that's linked here that has a lot more detail in terms of the electives and the specializations. And if you signed up on the sheet, when I send out an email to you all, I'll include this presentation, and you'll be able to click through on that to see more information on our electives. Usually, or not usually, sometimes people entering the program are really curious about the studios and the equipment, the gear that we use, and especially the camera gear. So I thought that I'd throw a slide in with this. Our program is based, for the most part, on the Canon C300, the camera you see on the right side. And students start using that camera from the very beginning in first year. In fourth year, there's an opportunity for students to use the ARRI Amira camera system. That's the one on the left. And this is it's a pro cinematography system that's equivalent to what they would use in industry. And I believe that if we're not the only program in Canada that's offering that camera system, we're one of a very select group that has that as something that students can use. People also often wonder about laptops, and we're a mobile program starting in second year. So students don't need to have a laptop in first year. They can use our labs. There usually is enough time in labs. Well, not usually. There always is enough time in labs to do assignments. But starting in second year, there's more of a focus on productions, and we think it's advantageous for students to have their own laptop. The other reason that's delayed until second year is because we believe that if you buy a laptop in second year, it will last you to fourth year without being obsolete. Right? If you buy it in first year, you may not quite get there. Oh, and so on the right, that's a screen grab from the specs that we publish every year for the students. There is a copy of that sheet over there on the table if you're curious. Those are the current specs. But again, we wouldn't expect incoming students to purchase a laptop until the start of their second year. Now, you're all here today, so you're able to see our studio spaces and our lab space.
What? No, I'm not. I'm good. Hearing about portfolio projects going on really makes me want to see a bit more of what the fourth years have been working on. How about re-roll a sizzle reel for portfolio and see all the amazing work that's been happening this year?
My name is Anna Diaz. I was a director of photography for Happy Life, one of the portfolio projects we did this year. It's a short narrative, and it's about a trans girl accepting herself finally, and like confronting her roommate about it, and just moving out of her place with the roommate, and just like accepting herself. So the director Bianca, her and I have been friends for a while, so I feel like we're really accustomed to working with each other. So as soon as she told me the story, I knew what I wanted. I wanted something very like, not dreamy, but very like soft and like kind of dreamy, like kind of hazy looking like. And I told her that, and then she agreed on it. She gave me some examples of other movies like Grand Budapest Hotel as like an example of like the look of it. I think that was a major inspiration for that. Also the movie Her, just like the pops of colors when it's like so soft contrast, but like there's some pop of red every now and then. That was also a big inspiration for the movie that we both agreed on. Everyone on the crew like I could trust, and I had a good time on set and outside of set. So for the meetings, it was fun just going to every meeting. Even though it was 9 a.m., I still had fun because I was friends with everyone. Same with set, it was like 7 a.m. every day. So that was rough, but still, I was excited to go because I knew I would have fun with my friends and still get the work done, because we can still have fun and still get the work done. So I think that was the best part of it. Don't be caught up on like trying to find your vision or like your style so soon. Just like try to experiment, make mistakes. Don't be scared to make mistakes, or just like learn with every set you go on. Like don't over prepared, because if you over prepare, I feel like you won't have as fun on set. You're gonna be too stressed, which you're already gonna be stressed on set. So try to just go with the flow, prepare as much as you can, and just be ready to make mistakes, and be patient with yourself when it comes to like creating a style and creating your own look for things. I had no idea what a DOP was in first year. Like I had a vague idea, but I didn't know what all the duties and everything that we had to be done. Same with like the whole camera and lighting department. I didn't know those were two different things. I didn't know there was a whole team for lighting, a whole team for camera. So I learned a lot about that, like different roles inside each department and how each department worked together. I think the biggest thing I learned is like how we all have to do these individual tasks, but we also all need to work together. Like you're never going on a film set and working by yourself. You're also gonna have to work with other people, and that's a big thing that I've learned since first year. To like always have your own like set of skills, but also trust each other with their own set of skills. I came into this program wanting to be like a director of photography, but I don't know if I would want to be that, because I've learned that it's also fun just being a first AC or learning how to be a gaffer, and that was fun. So I would be happy to do either or, but I would be happy to reach the role of DOP. But I feel like now it's more like there's so many options that it's hard to pick one. I think that's the biggest difference between me and first year, now and first year, yeah.
All right, guys, welcome back, and I have no introduction left here. I think this guy speaks for himself. He's a living man, a legend, someone I look forward to for the exact opposite reasons that you think. I'll let your manager hear a while about how entertainment prof he is. This is Artur. How's it going?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
This is an uncomfortably noisy chair.
It is.
It just causes like a suspension of disbelief unimaginable.
No, I think the audio head's going crazy. I think the plant here is having the best time.
The plant is a great guest as well. I want everybody to meet Greg the plant. Is my mic not working? It's muted. Who muted?
Technical difficulty, guys. Our prof is
My microphone, guys. We are live, but you muted my microphone.
I did?
Did you mute my microphone?
I will never confirm nor deny. That's an accusation or
That
claim.
is preposterous.
Damn it. All good. Well,
unacceptable.
Well, now we're here. What about Greg the Plant?
Greg the Plant. Greg the Plant has been here for about 20 years, from what I've heard. There have been multiple iterations. Right now, it does have bubble wrap inside the vase. So if you look closely, it's bubble wrap. So it should hold, because before this part was falling. So you see, we're always investing in upgrading things.
I know, we talk about advancing equipment, avatar equipment, motion cap. No, that's good. Greg the Plant
Greg
is the real
Plant. Greg the Plant is great. We've used for more things than we wish we had. And there it is. It's our boy.
Well, listen, I think because we were required to actually talk about something serious.
This chair is really noisy, man.
It is such a noisy chair. Well, listen, I would love to joke it all, but I think we should talk about actually something slightly serious about a moment.
All right.
Television production. Talk to me about what the program is like.
We have 2 mandatory TV classes, which are the television production process classes. They are basically for everybody to get at least a brief understanding of multi-camera production. So understanding the different aspects of having multiple cameras running at once, just like you're seeing here. So if we do it like this, 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 and this, they could change the camera. They're not changing. Come on, Anna. You can do better. This, so this, and this. There you go. That's so you could have, which is a completely different mentality than you have for when you're doing a motion picture or something like that, because you have all the time in the world to set up a shot and say, hey, you know what? Let's do one more for safety. There's no for safety here, guys. There is absolutely no safety.
And stuff breaks.
It's just danger all the time.
Oh.
If you don't pay attention, something's gonna happen.
No, what really surprised me is we did a volleyball game a month ago, and like on the first rehearsal, one of the camera's internal circuit sockets blew up, and then the first day I was operating, of course, the game I operate, I gotta be the main character out here. The ball hits the camera, and of course, the zoom mechanism stops working. So it's very fragile. You learn basically, you gotta work on the fly and stuff. So one thing I really like about TV that. What I like about your approach, like in the second semester, you let people make their own shows and just kind of have fun and wild. What's your game plan? Do you really just like seeing our creativity foster, or do you just want to?
That concept of letting you guys pitch and do everything came from a mix of everybody complaining that, oh, in core and portfolio, we don't really get to pick stuff. If we do whatever the profs choose, and we're like, you know what? Let them pick their own demise. Let them see how difficult it is to choose the ideas that they're going to produce and the challenges of doing them. So we put you guys in a situation that, okay, you guys know better, choose it. And sometimes you guys choose amazing things and you pitch amazing things. Sometimes it's just horrible. But I love it because it's also the challenge of learning to distinct and learn to filter those bad ideas before they reach production phase, right? So
be real with me. Was Hussein's Gains a horrible idea?
Hussein's Games was just a sketch within another show, correct?
Yes.
So that was fine. That worked fine. It wouldn't sustain itself as a whole show. And I think you would agree.
I've had people who told me different, but I'll let that slide,
Yeah, the people that lie to you, it's not my fault.
Damn.
There's not much I can do with your friends are not real friends.
Whoa, so you're saying I should not listen to them?
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm this guy's giving us wisdom and jokes here. Let's give a round of applause. No, so like honestly, another thing I want to ask, like, so you see, obviously you see your students come here for TV. How do you see them, say second years coming for TV? They come to your class. How do you see them apply those skills later on when it comes to like feature films or maybe other TV?
I wish they would apply the skills, but no, I'm joking. Of course, no. Usually they do pretty well. Usually we have to. I cannot say I cannot say that I hit them because I would get arrested. But it's like tough love sometimes.
Yes.
It's like sometimes you need some toughness, because a lot is like they still green at second year. Even though there's a lot of what I like to call first year intellectuals. They come in first year. They watched, I don't know, Pulp Fiction or some other garbage, and they think they understand anything about anything.
He's calling everybody watching right now. I'm just saying,
Yeah, and it's like, no. Exactly. Exactly. My nephew's over there, and he knows better. So.
Look at that. It's so cute.
But it is a sort of thing. Like, there's a lot to be learned, and you can see those things. Some things still drive me crazy. One thing that drives me crazy. And I'm going to talk to Octavio, who's right there behind the camera. Some cameras show Octavio over there. One thing that drives me crazy with the producers is how they try to shoot documentaries using freaking primes.
Whoa!
That drives me absolutely bananas. B-A-N-A, bananas. You never shoot a doc with a prime lens. Because if the person has a reaction, if something happens, You need to be able to adapt. You need to be able to get close by. You need to be able to run to the person and get that reaction shot. You don't do a prime because a prime won't let you do this. Right? Just like we're doing here. The cameras are versatile. They can move and they can follow people and they can do things, correct?
Yes.
And that is the part that drives me insane.
What an interview this was. Oh my god. You know, one more thing before we go. You know what? Seems in the mood. This guy's a band. His name is Slugs. It's awesome, guys. Check it out. I gotta shout my proud band out.
Yeah. If anybody wants the Slugs, just go on Instagram or social media. Is the THE. Slugs, SLUGGS. Why two G's? Imogen, why two G's? No, it's nobody knows. It's a mystery.
Damn.
Yes, exactly. It's great games.
Damn.
Like Hussein games.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think this has gone really wild, but you know what? This is the best interview you've ever done.
I'm sorry.
We could talk for 5 years. Artur, thank you so much.
Have a good one, Hussein.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Run a package, please.